It's a lovely 6:14 p.m. We're only starting 14 minutes late. That's not the worst we've ever done. And welcome to our February board meeting. Today is going to be mostly setting the agenda for the annual general meeting. But before that, we're also going to have a presentation from CASA. So let me do the preliminaries as usual. Internal board agendas. It is February. Call the meeting to order. We need an approval of the agenda. Today we should have a presentation from CASA. Then we're going to do as the annual meeting agenda, and if we have time, we'll talk about proxies. You'll see, board members, that we also have next week a separate meeting to deal with sort of other things that have come up, but we're expecting that it's going to take a while to get through the annual meeting agenda. So with that in mind, any discussion on the agenda? All right. Seeing none, unless I'm crazy. Yep, seeing none, I'll ask for a vote on the agenda as presented. All in favor of the agenda for today? Cool. All against the agenda for today? All right, and any abstentions on the agenda for today? Wonderful. That seems unanimous. We have acknowledgement. The Board of Directors acknowledges that the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our organization operates on the Haldeman Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. In the past 2 weeks, I've spent a lot of time doing planning activities, some of which with the Office of Indigenous Relations, some of which with planning students, and getting to bring together sort of youth and more wise planning planners and elders, and sort of the joie de vivre has been something that I've really appreciated, but also understanding both how land uses in the past influence our current land use and how land use in the future can help us get more in touch with each other and understand our place in the world. Our board priorities today, I think, are going to be a little bit silly. Board and organizational accountability. I guess the general meeting is organizational accountability and strengthening advocacy, which I guess you could ask, say, the general meeting. Conflict of interest. This is going to be a really complicated one that I think maybe we should deal with on a case-by-case business, because a lot of these motions have either individuals will be directly impacted or not, and maybe we should talk about that there. Is there anything about at a higher level for conflict that we'll be talking about? Not surprised. And then we'll talk about conflict as we get into it, because each of the motions is going to be complicated, and otherwise we're all going to have to list out all of our individual priorities. It's going to take a while. All right. Do we not have minutes today?
Oh yeah, no.
Oh, is this a February special meeting? Okay.
Wait, when's that?
Next week. It's March. Our actual February meeting's in March. All right. Well, with that, we have CASA here. Aria, would you care to introduce CASA for our board members, and then we'll turn it over to former Vice President Matthew in his new role.
I just
Yeah, so maybe from school. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Well, this is CASA. First of all, thank you for the CASA folks for joining us today. We brought them here today for you folks to listen to the presentation, learn a little about what CASA is and all the awesome work they do as we prep to make a decision on membership. So I'll pass it along to them to do all the fancy talking and the awesomeness together.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. If I may ask one thing, since we're presenting, is it possible for you to give me sharing permission so that I can share the presentation? or I could send the presentation to somebody as well. Either works, but.
I think
We'll see what we have along those lines.
there we go.
Wow.
Perfect.
Advocacy at CAF.
All right. If you could go to the first section of the. All right. Anyways, I'll start with the introduction. So then by the time we'll get to the presentation. My name is Stefan. I'm the Member Relations Officer here at CASA. My role primarily revolves around taking care of all of our member institutions and our observer institutions that we have here, assisting the Home Office in conference planning, making sure that our communications channels are flowing efficiently between members and delegates and Home Office. A large part of my job also is to travel around Canada, go to our different member institutions on the ground, talk to students, present to their council like now today. And then spread the awareness about CASA, but also take back information from students, like stories and real life experiences, so that we can work on our advocacy back in Ottawa as well. But that being said, we're glad to be here. Arya has been a very memorable person this year, and we're very happy to present to your council today. And I'll hand over to Wasima and Matt to introduce themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you for having us virtually. Really looking forward to talking about CASA and the work that we do. But my name is Wasima, as Stefan said, and I am the proud executive director of this association. And I guess just quick, very brief thing for me. Every year I keep saying student government this is my last year, but every time I keep coming back. But I joined as Vice President Student Life in my student union in 2018, and I've still been sticking around working for students. And I'll pass it on to someone you might be familiar with, Matt, to finish off the introductions.
Hi, my name is Matthew Garrett. It's nice to see some familiar faces, some new faces. I am the Government Relations Officer here at CASA, so I'm one of 2 registered lobbyists. I work under Wasima, my proud boss, who is our Executive Director. Usually we introduce ourselves in a different order, and now my usual spiel is messed up. But no, I am, along with Wasima, responsible for meeting with ministers' offices, with MPs, and with the civil service throughout the year to advance CASA's advocacy priorities. That's me. And proud former 2-time Vice President of Education, University of Waterloo, Federation of Students / WUSA.
There you go. There you go. There you covered it all.
All right. Okay, so I'll make this quick since our time is short. So this presentation, usually what we cover is we'll go through what the organization looks like, how our structure is, our committees, or how our advocacy is being done at CASA. We'll look at the federal budget wins that we got last year. And then finally, we'll look at what a year at CASA looks like, what happens throughout the year, and then look at some of the priorities that our delegates have decided for 24 to 25. And then at the end, what does this all mean for WUSA? Right, to glance, we currently have 27 full members and 13 observers at CASA, representing more than 410,000 students across Canada. Our board is comprised of 7 members, and we have 1 vote per school, which is a feature of CASA. Our mission is through its member-driven structure and grassroots approach. CASA's mission is to advocate for students using policy development and research awareness campaigns, GR, and partnerships with other stakeholders. We do a lot of policy development and research, and our work is really rooted in that kind of approach. We like to make sure that our work that is put out forward is of high quality and very research-driven. So you'll see that in our publications as well. Talking about our vision, both for CASA and for the post-secondary education in Canada, we envision an accessible, affordable, innovative, and high-quality post-secondary education system in Canada. This is the same standards that we apply within CASA as well. Every year, we try to be more accessible, innovative in the work that we're doing, and the high quality, the skills that we're imparting to our delegates, but also in the work that we're doing as well. These are our values. We are nonpartisan, so no matter which party is in the government or not, we lobby them all. We don't have any partisanship. We are very much member driven. Everything that happens at CASA happens with the knowledge of our members and our delegates. Everything flows through them. We are research based, as I mentioned before. Transparency is another one of our values. Each year we try to be more transparent in the work that we're doing and refine the work that we're doing at CASA. We have one vote per institution, and we have a very easy in, easy out procedure for getting in as members and getting out as members. That process is very simplified, and no institution within CASA is forced to stay if they do not wish to. Next one. Here we can see some of our members. We have a good mix of universities and colleges and postgraduate and grad schools as well. Same goes for our observers as well. We are currently, according to us, for a strategic plan, we are trying to recruit more graduate student, grad schools and colleges and polytechnic institutions so that their voices are also represented within CASA. All right. Here's a quick look at our organizational structure. At the top, we have our membership, that is all our member schools. Then comes the CASA delegates, which was the primary and the secondary delegates that come to our conferences, that are the people who are in direct contact with CASA and do the work throughout the year. Then comes the CASA General Assembly, where our policies are passed, all the work is being done, and our members get to vote and represent their organization. One school, one vote. Then comes the CASA Board of Directors. They are elected by our CASA delegates at the start of the year, which is at the Foundations Conference, usually happens in May. And that's where everybody elects the Board of Directors as well as the voting members within committees as well. We have our committees. We have 8 standard committees, and then we have an ad hoc committee as well. So the 8 are the Federal Policy Committee, the National Advocacy Committee, Governance and Internal Review, EDI, Member Relations, National Indigenous Advocacy Committee, which represents Indigenous students from all our member schools. We have College and Polytechnic Advisory Committee and Grad Advisory Committee. Each of those have separate reserved seats for institutions that are colleges and grad schools as well. And then at the end, we have our home office staff, which comprises of our executive director, our MRO, our government and stakeholder relations officer, policy and research analyst, our communications and content creative officer as well. Next. So what does it mean to be member driven at CASA? So membership, like I said, is comprised of primary and secondary delegates from our member institutions. They are responsible for representing their students at the national level. They review and assess CASA's actions on a yearly basis. They ensure that the organization is complying to the governing documents or OPs and our bylaws. They elect CASA's board and committee representatives every year. They attend, obviously, CASA's conferences and bring their student union's unique perspective, their students' perspective. And a very exciting part of all of this is meeting with the federal MPs, the politicians, the senators, everybody who's a stakeholder, and advocating for our priorities. A little bit about this is you get what you put in. So as CASA delegates, you have the power and the autonomy to decide how much you want to involve yourself with CASA. And the more you put in, obviously, the more you get out. The students have elected you to represent them, and it is your responsibility to represent them efficiently at the national level and make sure that their voices are amplified. Some of the ways to get involved within CASA. So there's 2 categories. One is as CASA delegates. So if you're the primary or the secondary delegate, you have the option of either running to be a board of director or running to be a voting member on a committee, or take a leadership role within a committee like a vice chair, or secretary. If you're a non-CASA delegate, so this usually applies to counselors or board of directors in your SU who are not the ones coming to the conferences, then you have the option to be a non-voting member on a committee. You can attend our virtual consultation sessions and share your student perspectives. We do a lot of consultation sessions for various committee items and projects throughout the year. Those consultation sessions are open to member schools, directors or counselors from the member schools to bring your perspective. And the other one is you can directly ask your CASA questions to our delegates. If you were in one of our sessions and you want to ask another CASA delegate from another school about anything, you could do that. Or you could bring your concerns directly through your primary or secondary delegates. This is our board for this year. So the board is comprised of the chair, secretary, treasurer, and then we have a director of advocacy, a director of membership, a director of EDI, and director of policy. All the directors chair their respective committees as well. They're responsible for overseeing our day-to-day work here at CASA. They create annual action plans. They also create action plans for their committees as well, They ensure that we're always member-driven and our work is being done with the knowledge of membership. And yeah. Right, here's another look at our committees. The Federal Policy Committee concerns itself with all the policy work that is being done at CASA. The National Advocacy Committee, like the name suggests, it's with any kind of advocacy that is being done, looks over our campaign or get out the vote campaigns as well. The Governance and Internal Review looks over our internal bylaws and OPs every year and reviews them. The EDI committee has a lens. All the other committees go through the EDI committees. So we ensure that all our work has an EDI lens to it. The Member Relations Committee takes care of the social activities at CASA, but also looks at recruitment and retention and our internal member relations and the work that we do there. The National Indigenous Committee works with our Indigenous student representatives from our member campuses, and they have their own kind of advocacy. They're sovereign in the work that they're doing, but they work closely with our board and our home office to ensure that the work put out is the best. CPAC and Graduate Advisory Committee is, like I mentioned before, has seats for colleges and polytechnics and grad schools, and they do advocacy specific to those schools and their specific needs of their students. And then our ad hoc committee is our elections committee. So whenever we suspect an election to happen in a particular year, the committee is active and they take over and look at things like our Get Out the Vote campaigns and any kind of preparation that we need to do for our delegates for the upcoming election. So this year it is active, and hence the elections for the committee. All right, and with that, I'll hand it over to Wasima to talk about the advocacy that we do at CASA.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stefan. So now you've kind of got a very quick overview of what we are, but what do we do around the table and how do we effect change? But before we get into what advocacy looks like, I think it's important to know, where does CASA fit into all of it? One thing you will keep hearing around the table is post-secondary education is a provincial issue, and CASA is a national advocacy. So where do we fit into the whole scheme of things? So federal government provides funding to provinces. So CASA is looking at advocating the government for more funding and more money to be going either directly to provinces or to the pockets of students, but also looking at a non-budgetary thing that also impacts students, but from a federal level. Provinces distribute the funding to institutions, and institutions then determine, based on how much funding they get, where does that go. So where does CASA fit in all of this? We are looking to advocate for increased funding, either directly to the provinces to go to institutions, or to go directly into students' pocket, which tends to be the way we go, where we believe that students having more money is always beneficial for the system. As Stefan kind of briefly mentioned, if you were to remember what our mission is, our advocacy very much ties into our mission at CASA. So this is where we look to advocate for change and create a change within the system. So the first piece is policy and research. At CASA, everything that we're doing, we try to have the best and most updated data. And very often we work on publications and annual reports, and these are a bunch of them that had been out over the last year, and they range from different topics, from Indigenous education to international student to digital transformation and AI. And we also have usually 2 or 3 annual publications that we have, like the pre-budget submission and also our advocacy document that we present to Parliament in November. The other way we effect change is by bringing the students directly to the people making decision. And I think that's one of the big piece of CASA. We go in November or wherever is appropriate within the government cycle. We have a week-long advocacy where we train our delegates and we prepare them to go and bring their stories and the data directly to decision-making people. As I like to say, I graduated in 2020. I don't know what it's like to be a student anymore. So that's why we bring the student perspective directly to the one effecting change and making those decisions on their behalf. We also have very strong connection with ministers' office, or we try to maintain the strong connection in ministers' offices through the job that Matt does, but also as an overall organization, just so that when there is changes happening, we are able to have that ongoing relationship and conversation with ministers' offices. Also wanted to highlight that last Advo Week in 2024, where Aria was present, we did have a meeting with the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, but we also had a very good conversation with Minister Mark Miller. International students was a priority that was identified by not only our CASA members, but just the student population in general. So we had the minister come and speak to about 60 to 70 students about what is happening on the IRCC level, and putting the minister in front of students and the students in front of the minister. We also do a bunch of committee appearances whenever we are invited to, and we consider it a great honor and privilege to have a student present directly to committee. We also submit a bunch of briefs over the course of the year in terms of study that is impacting post-secondary education, just to make sure that the student perspective is not lost along the way. And that's why we are based in Ottawa. We have someone like Matt and our policy person really dedicated and keeping time to ensure that whenever there is a consultation or a study being made, we have the student perspective if it's relevant. And here you can see our Indigenous representative a couple of years ago presented in front of the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs. To the latest one, our Chair Nelson presented to the Standing Committee on Citizenship to talk about the reforms of the International Student Program last December. We also do a lot of stakeholder relations as well. We do believe that sometimes in a unified front and bringing all stakeholders that have a common interest together can advance the post-secondary education system and also what we're advocating for. So we work closely with Universities Canada, college and institutes, polytechnics, just to see what their priorities are and what our priorities are as well. Some of them might not align, but we try to build that ongoing relationship just to ensure that we are all of a unified front in front of the government when we are presenting items as well. We also do tend to engage with our provincial stakeholders. That's something that has been happening over the last years, especially recognizing the state of post-secondary over the last years. We, again, going back on the unified front, we do believe that the more people we have that is having conversation within the same issue, the more solid and unified we are. So now we are having a quarterly meeting where we have most provincial group across the country come together and share the ideas and support and also concerns, so we can be a resource sharing for one another. We also have a national campaign of how we effect change. It depends. The campaign topic is decided by membership and is voted at our July conference. This one is about the Canada Student Grants and asking for increased funding for student financial aid. We also do a lot of public relations. This is in 2023, for instance, we were seen as like an expert to comment on the international student working hours, on the cap of international student hours. So we are very much seen as an expert often by external or public facing media, just to comment on the student perspective as well. And just to kind of like wrap up now that we've kind of done, kind of talked about what does advocacy look like, what does the change look like. So through our advocacy, we were pretty lucky and grateful to see that budget 2024 reflected a lot of the advocacy priorities that our membership had. And we were proud to see that all the things that we've kind of also mentioned to the government did show. So it was an increase in student financial aid, an increase in research after 20 years, an increase in Indigenous learners funding. We saw a bunch of investment for student housing that we're expecting and excited to see being implemented. And then we saw a couple of investment in jobs and employment as well. So what does a year at CASA look like? So students will come at foundations, and that's where they will select the board of directors and brainstorm about what their priorities would be. And then the board will take those discussion and take it to a board retreat and come up with a plan to then be presented at the policy and strategy conference, where members have a lot of conversation and input on what the priorities they think of the board and the organization should be. And they leave that conference with approved priorities that Home Office then take to work and get ready for our advocacy week in November, where we present those advocacy priorities through a government relations framing. And then we do our advocacy week. And then in January, we have a campaign. And then in April, which is so close now, we wrap up the year and redo the whole cycle again. What was the priorities for this year, or still is? What are the priorities for this year? We still have a couple of months left. These were the priorities that was identified by our students, and you can see a bunch of the work had already been done around this. Is student financial aid. We're still pushing for increase in Canada student grant and maintaining that. Artificial intelligence, we saw a publication coming out of it. Indigenous student funding, continuing advocating for increased funding there. Graduate student funding, campus safety. Actually, we just got off a federal policy committee meeting where they are working on a policy on campus safety. So a lot of movement are still happening. We're excited to present a report at AGM on where we are at with all these priority setting. And now that I hope we didn't go too much over time, but what does this all mean to you folks, to your student and to your council? By having a CASA delegate from your council, you get to represent WUSA students on a national level in Ottawa. Your student perspective, the stories that you're sharing on your campus, you're able to bring that to decision-making table at CASA. You get to attend CASA conference, but also take leadership roles. For instance, running for a board of director position where you have a little bit more hands-on day-to-day influence on the operation of the organization. You get to participate in CASA committees and working group where a lot of the decisions and direction of the organization happens. A big part of being part of CASA too is you are able to have government relation and stakeholder access. For instance, you have access to Matt that are able to brief you for like your local advocacy as well, but also by virtue of being part of CASA, you can rest assured that priorities are still being discussed within Parliament around student issues, while you focus more internally on what's going on your campus. Access to professional development training and advocacy, so you're able to receive a lot of the training like GR one-on-one, political updates from Matt, policy updates, just generally like preparing you not only to be a CASA delegate, but also you can take back a lot of the things that you learn to your own SU as you're doing work and advocacy as well. And last but not least, you member-driven and being part of change now and the future. You probably have heard that advocacy doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time and years, and you're able to be part of this bigger change and leaving behind policies or advocacy work that you've done. And the one piece is also the student union network that you get to build as well across the country. I know we ran through this because we had 15 minutes, but we are happy to take any questions. But I don't know if Matt, you had anything else to add at the end.
No, I will just defer to what was said, and if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Cool. Thank you very much, CASA. Questions from directors? I guess my own curiosity is, I saw you have some existing committees, some previous reports. What sort of new things are you looking at bringing into the CASA advocacy portfolio in the future? Other than like new technologies, because new technologies is always something, but like what are sort of other things that you've seen schools asking for in the past that you're looking to possibly add in the future?
Yeah, I think that this is a very interesting one, and Wasima can probably take over from me because she's more familiar with the exercise. But one thing that we do every May is that we actually have each of our members bring emerging issues that they see coming up on their own campuses and letting us know that they exist. Often what will happen is that those get funneled into our policy development process throughout the year. For example, a recent one that we saw just a couple of years ago, and I think it's something that you probably hear a lot about too, is food security. I mean, it's something that we didn't really have any policy on until a couple of years ago. We then wrote a report. I forget the name of the report. I don't know if you remember it, Wasima. And we did end up doing a little bit of advocacy around that and putting it into the report, submitting that. And it also gives a direction to me as well to kind of look out for opportunities out there. For example, one of the things that we provided to our members and that we continue to provide for our members is that part of my job is looking at every announcement that the government makes for available funding and then sending that out to our members. So the local food infrastructure program provides money to nonprofits, student associations included, to be able to make investments in food infrastructure. New fridges for a food bank would fall under something like that. And we ended up putting that out where even if it wasn't something that landed in our priorities, we were still able to take advocacy action on it. Other priorities that we're seeing emerging, you definitely did mention AI as something there. We are always doing policy development. There's about like 3 or 4 priorities, 3 or 4 policies that Wasim and I were in a meeting about 2 hours ago. Campus safety is something that is definitely emerging and that we're working on presently. We're also looking at credit transfer. Obviously, I don't think that there's a burning desire among students to talk about credit transfer, but it is something that's really important and something that does have kind of a national tinge to it. So we definitely are constantly renewing. I'm trying to answer a question that you didn't directly ask. We're definitely always trying to look at things that are emerging, both that we hear from students directly and also ones that we know would have impact, even if they're not the ones that immediately jump to mind. I don't know if that answered your question well enough, or Wasim, if you have any.
The food insecurity was the answer, I suppose, there. Other directors? Sure, Alex.
Only have one question. I think, would you be able to just pick a couple of your biggest wins, the biggest CASA wins you've seen over the past few years?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that one as well. I think I sent over to Arya, possibly a little bit too late for inclusion in the agenda package, but a chart that does detail a bunch of the advocacy that we've been involved in. It tries to link out to some of our involvement in it. I would say in terms of pure financial impact, the Canada Emergency Student Benefit and the Canada Student Grants are definitely some of the bigger ones. Obviously, those mostly affected domestic students only, but we have been involved in other priorities as well on there. Another big one that doesn't necessarily immediately jump to people's mind, but copyright policy is something that we've really tried to take ownership on over the last little bit. There is kind of a stance of fair dealing. It's actually Fair Dealing Week in Canada right now. That if that policy had changed last year, like a lot of people were pushing for, and where there was a lot of support within the Liberal Party, basically the University of Waterloo probably would have had to pay about $16 per student in fees, and they would probably have put in a new ancillary fee to cover that. So our part in working with some of our sector stakeholders probably saves your members about $16 per year, as long as that policy stays at its status quo.
One I would like to add on is like housing was not something that was, I guess, on CASA's radar because it's a provincial issue. But then I believe in 2023 or 2022 that emerged as a big priority from our members, and CASA and the team at Home Office and the board tried to look at ways where we could influence the federal government, recognizing that a lot of the zoning, a lot of the funding is very much provincial, and we did see like an increase in funding, but also increase like the eligibility for PSI to qualify for apartment loan construction program, just like innovative ways to address the housing crisis that hopefully will benefit students that we have jurisdiction so far. I think like the way CASA was able to pivot and still address an issue that is not very much within the jurisdiction of the federal government, but still be able to find innovative ways, I would say, is a good win in terms of the housing when it was identified to be an issue as well. And we saw a couple of funding for mental health as well. And we are currently in the implementation phase to see that the funding goes to post-secondary students, where we saw a $500 million investment in youth mental health. But now we're trying to find all that funding to post-secondary students as well. So yeah, just a couple more. I know if Arya just shared that in the chat as well. And if there's like anything specific priority that you're like, what did CASA do on this? Happy to answer. But yeah,
I know it's very Waterloo, but we've been having plenty of fights this year around student labor, because at least in Ontario, you lose protection as long as you're a student for your employment rights. So it's come up quite a lot.
Can't really speak to any advocacy on like provincial labor codes, which I think is the issue for co-op stuff in particular. I do know that we do have some interest in labor protections, in particular around graduate student issues, because a lot of the graduate students can fall under federal labor laws. I don't know why, but they do. So that is about the extent of our involvement in the provincial labor side of policy. On the federal labor side, we haven't had any huge issues arise that have come from there, but it's definitely something that we keep an eye on as well.
Further questions for CASA? Okay then. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. One of our topics that will come up in a bit is a motion for AGM about CASA membership. So thanks for giving us the preview on that.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. Bye.
All right. Well, that was our CASA presentation. I hope you liked hearing them talk about CASA. Now we're into new business. This is gonna be the longer part of today. But maybe we can do the easy stuff first. Maybe we won't. The general structure is approval of the 2025 annual meeting agenda. Be it resolved that the board approves the annual meeting agenda as presented. And then we will immediately be making amendments. I'll bring this forward. Does anyone want to second this? And then we can get involved with the AGM. Alex, thank you very much. Let me get my speaking order out. If I hope you've had a chance to at least have access to the friendly amendments from authors. Can I use that as a starting point? Does any of the board of directors unhappy with using that as a starting point?
Let me pull it up.
That's fine. I've done my best to highlight changes where I could. I have not highlighted every change. Please use your reading glasses. But a lot of the changes have been highlighted to help speed up your ability to see where authors have made updates. Siobhan.
So we should be going off of the author-friendly.
Author-friendly amendments, please.
Oh, not the, okay.
So be it.
Yes.
Okay.
The one that's linked there was the first pass.
Ice cream?
Yeah, there's ice cream at Chaska now.
Oh.
Sorry, any
Okay.
more discussion on using the friendly amendments as our starting point for today? Jeff would like to join the speakers list. Jeff, I haven't even opened the speakers list yet. Okay. All right, I'll put Jeff first. Yeah.
By first name basis, right?
Sure. Let's start with Anthony, I
Okay.
suppose. But I would appreciate to preface this because there are some things for us to consider when we're looking at motions. I'll put Jeff first, but I put it in your chat, so you guys should be able to see that. The Not-for-Profit Corporation Act has a way of looking at member proposals. In the board chat, you should be able to see that we're supposed to be able to provide an opportunity for members to present proposals. We're supposed to provide a timeline for that. We're not supposed to, if a motion fails, they can't bring back an identical motion within 2 years. So if we see one that's identical, we can get rid of that. People can't use this to do publicity, which is kind of a fun one that probably won't come up. It can't be about something that we have no control over. So we actually have one author change at least that was based off control. The first one is a bit weird because our timeline actually would never allow for a member to submit a proposal more than 60 days before the day of the meeting. But in theory, not submitting a proposal that early would be grounds to remove, but it would be a pretty bad faith.
No. You could, yeah, it's there for a reason because the board has to have the ability to review the proposals that are coming forward.
Yeah.
So what it means we need to do going forward is January, put a notice out if people want to put proposals forward. So technically, yes, you could remove all of the proposals this year because they all were not received 60 days before the meeting, but you've already had that conversation. And so it was an error on they didn't get it. So I wouldn't worry about that one.
However, 6B is a one that we'll probably be talking to today, which is if the purpose of the proposal is for personal reasons, either redressing personal grievance against any aspect of the organization or claims made in a way that are personal, which I'm going to summarize as sort of an author bringing forward something in bad faith. So intent matters, and especially if it's a personal grievance. Is there anything else I should notice before? Oh, we're also in theory supposed to tell them that we refuse their motion.
I have a question.
Alex,
Are these the criteria that we're going to use to evaluate?
these are screenshots from the Not-for-Profit Corporation Act. I think it's not a bad choice to go with those criteria.
Also need to consider, and that was in some of the material that you got, things that the board has responsibility for in making recommendations through. And it typically is things like any amendments or changes to bylaws. They have to come in from membership. So that may be another way that
Okay.
consideration you want to have too is what's the impact of some of these, and it's really turn to the leadership team to say, and whether you do that today or whether you say we need more investigation, it's fine. There's nothing magical about when the proposals are coming forward. We could have a special meeting for various people too. I wouldn't suggest that because you're already you're committing the next board to do it.
Yeah, I'm just sort of trying to understand if we should be taking a look at these motions from like a board perspective.
Okay.
You have to. You have to.
Okay, okay.
It's a fun balance because 6 is exceptions for when we can refuse a proposal. So we have to find a claim within 6 if you want to refuse.
We need.
Yeah, you have to be in compliance with the legislation.
Okay.
So
Is that like,
for instance,
it's like one individual?
no, as a board, if we choose to refuse, we have to be, so we have the list of exceptions where we're allowed to refuse. And if we think something is a bad choice for the organization, we have to show that it violates at least one of these exceptions. The obvious one being B, which is someone is using this for personal gain or because they have a grievance, which is probably the most likely one to apply for a lot of the circumstances if they're coming up today.
And the majority is how many? 3, 4?
Oh, we have a lot of easy motions to get through as well, Marchini.
Okay.
There are probably some in there that we can go, it is within reason to let the members talk about this at general meeting.
Okay.
There are plenty of reasonably boring ones. Teresa,
I just wanted to ask quickly, are we also, if any motions are rejected today, will we be sending out a communication as to why the motion was rejected under the criteria of the 6?
oh, I'll take lunch. We're supposed to do that. So in theory, we're actually supposed to do that within 10 days of receiving the motion. But we'll do our best. Ignoring that, we can go alphabetical if you want, but I feel like it might not be the best approach. You know what? Going alphabetical from also title of motion does start us off with a really easy one,
Oh, the camera.
which is campus mapping. But actually, I think first I'll let Alex speak to it as seconder of the motion in case you want to use it, because you seconded the general.
Speak to the campus mapping?
No, just like anything.
Anything.
Before we get started.
Second them. Yeah.
Fuck.
All right. Well, then, Jeff, you're technically on the speaking order.
I'll keep it brief because I think Nick covered pretty much everything. In essence, I guess I'd just encourage the board to keep in mind our responsibilities under AMCA to both the corporation and to respecting the rights of members so that we don't get sued.
We can't just say no. We have to tell them why. All right. With that, let's go to the very first one, which is a motion from member Anthony Chen around campus tunnel and bridge wayfinding and accessibility. This one, I don't think will be controversial, but does anyone have anything to say about that to start us off? This one also didn't receive any updates. So you've seen this one for a while. There's nothing weird in here.
So
Sure.
To trial this out,
Okay.
this is where I would take a look at this motion. I would go, can we even do it? And that doesn't matter. Right?
No, it does matter. It does matter. But it may be one, if you reject it and you sit and you want to do it, it requires further investigation. Further information, the way it's written right now, it didn't get it. Nothing that you have any control of.
Okay.
Is it maybe nice to do at some point? Maybe.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I wonder if you want to take a look at the materials that was prepared in potential grouping for them, and it may, next to your point, help you help you move on to the ones that are
Sure.
kind of no-brainers to just
Yeah.
move forward, because I know that it's a balance you want to have between
I hear you.
respecting voices. and
Yeah,
others, but you
exactly.
Also don't want to.
Let me see if I have
Yes.
that document
Limbo.
open.
Three tabs you.
A lot, Mary Jane.
How's your computer functioning?
Look at each of the motions, but because I don't think the titles didn't change. It didn't change.
No, the groupings should be relatively similar mostly.
Because there's some stuff that makes
Sure.
sense.
I think going by grouping is kind of fun. Let's try and go for the easy ones first. Nice. Do we actually have one that is the easy group?
Do proposals, probably because it's numbers 80.
Wonderful. Okay. It's
Esther did a wonderful job grouping.
thank you very much, Esther. I'm sorry I didn't notice that they were. We have, okay, then I'm gonna actually recommend we start with one that Esther wrote this afternoon to help me out, which is ratifying bylaw changes from last general meeting. Because we had one bylaw change from the last general meeting and the lawyers made some slight changes to it. So we should ratify it. This one is called bylaw change approval, in case you're looking in the document for it. And it's not on Esther's list because we wrote it today.
We moved on from campus.
Well, we're gonna go back.
Oh, okay.
This one should be pretty much, hey, we have bylaw that we changed at the last general meeting, or we recommended changing. Then this is the proposed amendment. Are we good with the proposal? And that should finish the bylaw change. Any discussion on this one? Wonderful. Actually, I'm going to create a new folder, which is the ones that are approved. Wonderful. Okay, cool. Number 2 is the Senator Honorarium motion. Yeah. Which one? This one does have an update to it.
It does.
What is this? Is Aria's?
This is Aria's.
Yeah.
I
wonder why.
Aria being a future senator.
I wonder why.
I did actually talk with some senators around what they thought would be fair. And you'll notice that it actually has a recommended sort of like structure to follow, which is to try and prevent senators from being paid directly by WUSA, and instead have Secretariat run it, because then we're a little bit more hands off. Marianne's file is not what we're working from, Jeff.
Okay.
Who's Jay? We're not working from Marianne's file, Jay.
Oh, the authors thing.
Yeah, it's the one called friendly author amendments, because these are friendly amendments from authors.
Okay, find it. Thanks.
All right. Let me make sure I actually have chat open so I can see. Sorry, we were talking Senator honorariums. Thoughts on Senator honorariums coming forward with the amendment there, which has WUSA instead transferring money to Secretariat to try and be more hands-on. But still, Senator honorariums. Any thoughts on this coming forward to AGM? we're not actually debating motions, just whether or not they should go forward.
Oh.
Which, is it reasonable to let us talk about this? I'm not seeing anybody.
Brian,
Brian, no.
Is that our business to be doing because it's not our body? Sorry, that's just a clarifying. And I apologize if I missed that.
No worries. The changes that me and Arya, that I worked on with Arya, we're trying to make it so that instead it's a gift sort of given to Secretariat to then distribute. So rather than us doing the administration, we instead have an agreement with Secretariat about it.
Okay. And then I guess the other one that I follow up is like, have we asked the university to pay for them?
Nope.
Okay.
These are discussions that we've had before. And it's a weird one because almost all senators are already being paid to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
From the staff perspective.
By the staff.
Yes.
Yeah. So and in fact, some of the senators that are students genuinely are actually also being paid to be there because they're co-ops for the university. And it gets really like, so they're trying to resolve this has now been a case of them trying to figure out how do we deal with like 8 people, like 10% or less of attendance to these sort of meetings and stuff like that. So yeah, sure.
we ask them, like, what is it, or could we include in the motion that would be our first? That before we would.
Sure. Do you think that's friendly, Ari?
I think that's kind of,
All right.
To see if there's public appetite, right? Public appetite.
Okay. Let me make that.
It could just be a yes.
No, that's super reasonable.
I suggest that it not be Aria that's putting this one forward.
Oh yeah.
Particularly.
Okay.
Even though it's
It's a personal game.
a little bit of personal game.
All right.
Oh, you get to bring the board.
It could be the board that's bringing it forward, that's okay, but I would suggest it not be Aria.
That's a great point, Sandra. Does anyone else want to pick this up, or are we going to just do this? Call this board?
I don't know.
All right, we'll call this board. The board of directors. Board of directors, and then Suzanne.
I don't think this should be coming on behalf of board unless it's
Okay.
something that the board actually puts forward.
All right. Does anyone want to pick this up specifically, recognizing that Arya having to recuse himself would cause us to fail automatically?
Maybe Arya can ask the past senator.
That would be me. All right, sure. This becomes
Is
now
there a
a
precedent
Nicholas
for,
Feifel motion.
And
And be it resolved that should to your point say, first of all, ask Secretariat if they're willing to, and if not, this. Okay.
Jeff.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
No, it's fine. Withdrawn.
Okay. Here's all that. The board of directors ask Secretariat if they are willing to establish an honorarium for student senators. And if not, ... the rest of the motion as usual. Okay. Any further discussion on this one? And it's now my motion, so I'm going to change who's writing it. All right. Let me save this in the right place. Jeff.
Sorry, this might be a little pedantic, but is there any precedent for changing the submitter of a motion after it's been submitted to us? Why are we changing this? I heard Sandra's point, I guess, but it is the person who submitted it. Why are we obfuscating that?
So what's likely to happen is that it gets, is it bird or snow?
Almost nice.
Oh. Okay.
Just trying to save some grief.
Yeah. So Jeff, because what would probably happen is that Ari would have to recuse himself, so that it would go into our business arising section and then have to be picked up by somebody else later. And I'm fine with doing this because I already helped Aria write the changes to this motion.
Why would Ari have to recuse himself?
Because Aria is in conflict on this one, because he's in pecuniary conflict specifically, right?
Okay, but he is the one who submitted this motion. Like that is the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is that.
Oh, good point. Okay.
So like, is the fact that we're considering this not improper in of itself? If that is your logic, in which, like, I don't think we should be obfuscating this to the assembly. I don't think it's transparent or fair to students. Personally, this motion I'm fine with, but I don't think we should be trying to hide anything.
Okay. Should we instead say Nicholas Feifel and Aria Razumju then?
I think that'd be fair.
All right.
If you did come up.
Trying to hide.
No, we're just trying to prevent this from getting too complicated later. All right. I think that is a reasonable compromise, and I'm just going to save things into folders so I don't lose them. Friendly. Okay.
I notice we're not going in order anymore, so it's like picking.
No. So I'm working from the order that Esther wrote up.
Oh, Esther.
Sorry. Yeah, it's called Review for Member Proposals, and it's on page 4.
Okay.
And we're going from the bottom because these are supposed to be the ends. Okay. Anything more on Senator Honorarium? Now it's me and Aria with the updates, and also first just ask if Secretary will do it first. And then if not, we'll talk about it more detailed.
I'll just withdraw my name on the floor when it comes.
Yeah. Then it also doesn't hide the authorship, sort of. Yeah. Okay. All right. Can we move on to the next one? Cool. Oh, I'm also gonna do a vote on the amendment at the end, because otherwise we're gonna be doing a lot of votes today. I think that's reasonable. I don't know if that was implicit or not, but
Just now.
okay. Next should be another RE motion. This time it's the updated one called AFSA reintegration to ASU. And I think we have that. Where is that? AFSA referendum. You'll note the change to this one from what you've already been able to see. Now the draft motion says WUSA to hold a referendum for members of the School of Accounting and Finance in the spirit of to allow for AFSA to exist as a sub-society of the Arts Student Union, a society under the Arts Student Union, therefore decreasing in the fee that students are expected to pay from $30 to $10. That is the change that we have to the original text.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, you can talk.
I have a question for Aria. Was ASU consulted about them being given? Clear back and forth?
As many members of my group that got my hands on. I talked to them.
That's kind of why it switched over to referendum eventually. Rather than having WUSA have General Assembly vote to just make this decision, instead have the School of Accounting and Finance decide for itself. Any more on the edited ASU motion? Sorry, edited School of Accounting and Finance AFSA motion. Teresa.
I guess just wondering about the impact of this topic. It's the whole.
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up a bit there, Teresa.
Sorry. If this is a whole referendum and it goes through, do we know that ASU is in a position to modify their constitution to allow us to become a subsidy under them? Like, do we have the constitutional backing, or rather, does ASU have?
I don't exactly know what the question was, but Brad.
I think I got it. Teresa, just give me a thumbs up if your question was, does ASU's constitution have the capacity to absorb a sub-society like AFSA underneath them?
Yeah, at current. Or like, is the implication of the motion that ASU would have to make the constitutional amendments? Sorry, I'm on the bus, so probably can't really hear me.
I would suggest that you don't need to be debating that part of it right now. The motion is, the proposal is to host a referendum, then all of them. So at this stage, you just need to decide whether this is an appropriate proposal to go forward to the annual meeting. Why you're asking for a referendum. If you aren't even wording the referendum questions, we've got lots of time. You've got lots of time to do that. Otherwise, if you start debating what's in the motions now,
Yeah.
we'll be here all night long.
Yeah.
And the proposals will.
Teresa, sorry, may I jump in?
Sure.
Teresa makes a good point. She says, I'm sensitive to the impacts here, which I assumed we need to consider. So do we need to be thinking like foresight, advance of what might happen?
To do, it's hard to do some of that, and yeah,
Yeah,
unless.
so gymnastics.
Here. So again, you do have the options. If there is not enough information to put the proposal forward, that could be a way, a reason why you defer it to another meeting of the membership.
Okay. I'm gonna do Jeff, then Alex, then Brian, and write this down.
But I guess I just wanted to push back against over analysis of the like if we are not going to consider implications here, we should do that equally across all motions and obey the respect the rights of members to submit proposals and for us to consider them duly. But I would just remind everyone that regardless of your personal opinions or beliefs about the motions themselves, we should only be evaluating them based on the, like, we shouldn't be trying to use Anka here. Like, we should respect the spirit as well as the letter of Anka here. We shouldn't just be like, okay, I don't like this motion, so I'm going to look for an exception in Anka to reject this. I don't think that'd be appropriate and not reflective of what students should get.
Good point, Jeff. Alex.
No, thank you.
Brian.
More of a point of information for board rather than any response there is through the general meeting is also how absentee was brought into play and approved many years ago. So it is a tangible form for something else to happen this way as well. Okay. Just like that happened, there was consequences or, you know, constitution changes, et cetera, thereafter, similar to Sanders' point. So just want to bring that historical context to the board.
There's a lot of TTC stuff.
She missed her stuff. You walk.
Okay. With respect to the updated version, any more discussion? SOP was a station. Okay, Teresa's gonna be on an adventure. Any more on the AFSA referendum motion, as I am renaming it, because that's what it's doing now, as opposed to forcing it. Okay, then I'm assuming that is fine to be added to the agenda. Is that correct? Cool. I have too many things called Senator Honorarium open. Next one is a Rory Norris motion. We're starting with time tracking, which I think is also called director timesheets if you're looking in your folder. This one has not received updates. Discussion on the Rory Norris motion. I'm kind of surprised. You guys were still talking about this like last term. Do you need more time to read? Okay.
Yeah.
Eat your ice cream for a minute if you're in the room.
I guess I have questions on like the implications of how this time tracking sheet thing works.
It's not exactly what we're going through today.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay.
We're mostly looking to see whether or not there's a reason to, if there's a good reason to reject, as opposed to what Rory, that discussion routine is to actually have at the AGM,
Oh,
which is, should we actually do this as opposed to, should we allow this? Jeff.
Sorry, I'll have a quick question here. It's not related to this motion in particular, but I remember in the past something that was considered was for the board to attach commentary to each motion in terms of recommendations or non-recommendations. And I remember for some reason that year we backtracked on it. Is that something we can do? And if so, I think it's something that we should strongly consider here.
Absolutely, Jeff, you should be doing that, especially those that have financial implications.
Okay, in that case, if it please the chair, could we perhaps go back to the motions we've already done and like settle on a quick recommendation for each, if that makes sense?
I don't think, Jeff, it's really a recommendation. It's comments or rationale that goes around it, because you don't want to, otherwise the board is then proposing all of these proposals.
No, yeah, like recommend, not recommend in like a one sentence rationale to inform the student body when they are at the general meeting.
I'd almost prefer not to, if that's okay. Like, I'm happy if you want, we could, you can write out your own reasoning. We can have a collected document, but I think for something that is a general assembly where we are members, I'd much rather instead have us each present our own positions on issues rather than be unified together.
Well, yeah, we all have our own positions, but we also have to consider what's best for the corporation, right? Like there should be some sort of stance to benefit, like at the end of the day, it's to benefit students, but there is the difference between like my own personal view and what I think is best for the organization. But if no one else has strong opinions on this, for sake of time, we can move on.
Am I correct in assessing that no, the majority view is not to do this?
Not to do it tonight.
Oh, sorry, at least tonight. Not to do this tonight, because it's not time sensitive.
I see what he's saying though.
I think when you will need to, for those that you're not moving forward, you need to have the rationale. And so I would suggest through the chair that that can be something you task the governance group to put together the draft of what the rationale is for why you're turning it down, and then that can be circulated to the board before it goes.
I think for the ones going forward though, that
Then I think the same thing. There can be some reasons that are coming forward as you're discussing whether, yes, this is something to go forward. But I just worry if you're crafting something tonight.
yeah,
Everybody's going to be, you may not get where you need to be. And it might be better to, if you get the essence of the reason why it's going forward, then
okay,
that should do it. Would be my suggestion.
Sure.
Is there room for that to happen at the next board meeting before the annual member?
So the 4th of March.
I'm just saying.
Just the meeting.
Today, you could, I don't know. I mean, it's for that suggestion. This is gonna go, but you could have some conversations and make recommendations.
Yeah.
It could go out between when the agenda comes out and when the meeting happens.
Yeah.
okay.
And unlike the rest of the agenda, it's okay for that to not be approved today.
Yeah.
Does it need to be attached to the agenda? No, I don't think it would, Brian. So it doesn't have to happen today, so maybe we shouldn't do it today.
but are directors able to give comments on it like now, present?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Flash. personal opinions on the actual content of the motion
No,
itself.
not the content, but like
Okay.
whether it should be at the annual board meeting or not.
That's.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. The only ones that we should probably be doing today is if we're rejecting it, then we should have a reason today.
Okay,
But for approval, we don't have to provide full details today.
well, I don't think it should go to the thing personally, but I don't know about the rejection part. I think it's warranted.
Is that about the motion passing or about it going to the General Assembly?
I think the passing.
Okay,
Maybe.
then that's not for
Yeah.
today's discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything more on director timesheets?
This is,
This is called
oh yeah, no,
Rory Norris's own identifiers, Board of Director kill, M 1.0.
this is not director honoraria.
No, Director Honoraria is the second part to this motion in a way.
Oh,
Yeah,
foolish me.
sorry.
What's Rory's other one?
Well, is the idea of tracking time acceptable to move forward to the, it's
Yes.
okay, cool. Anybody against moving it forward or talking about this more? This is just tracking, not actually doing honorarium changes. All right. So then, I'm gonna move the Rory Norris time tracking to the category of it's okay to be on the agenda. The next part of our meeting is now actually having that time tracking impact honoraria, which is called Rory Norris Director Honoraria. There is a change here. There's one update to the whereas because Rory made a claim about policy that was technically incorrect, but I don't think that substantially changes it. And the other section that is updated was redefining what exactly a average CEE pay is, which is a lot more complicated now to try and be specific, and so that things make more sense, which is if you've seen the table on the CEE website, there should be a specific thing that we can pick out from that table that we have as a data point, right? To actually make that decision.
Read Sarah's comment.
Oh, I missed it. Other than motions that have dangerous implications, I wouldn't want to add more comments to motions. Okay, you guys are chatting about that still. That's fine. But in terms of director honorarium, do people see this as being a problem to bring forward to the AGM?
Yes, there's two parallels that I've found in this. This one and officer compensation from ARIA is one that sort of has a weird intersection, and then the other one that has a weird intersection. It for the AGM is the Rory Norris SLC, like the strategic plan, and the freeze on WUSA freeze. Both of these pairs have a really weird intersection.
Yes, they do.
So for this one, the one we're looking at right now, we would actually see the honorary be lowered from around 1,100-ish to 1,000-ish. And then we're also looking at raising on officer, potentially raising pay at the same.
It's just saying looking for officer compensation. So we're not saying raise, reduce honorarium, even raise or reduce salary. It could be.
Yeah,
Aria
Aria is actually really cagey in his officer motion.
It could be the hours that changes, not necessarily their pay rate. So
The intention isn't to raise pay.
the wording makes it very.
It just
clear
says
that
a
for-
new pay reflective of workload of officers.
Yeah, it could go down in PV, right? So board should do an audit and use science and facts to figure that out.
Yeah, technically,
The wording is very much.
it does imply it should go up, but Aria is really wishy.
Okay.
No, I mean, it doesn't impact me.
Okay, yeah.
And also,
If that's
not in conflict, so.
then you want to have an AGM, okay, but that just seemed like a big conflict, but if it's not a conflict.
Actually, I would argue the case. Yeah, Aria is not going to get compensated by the officer compensation. But Rory Norris, good point, would be impacted by the director honorarium.
Yeah,
Okay,
just like all the other
yeah, but you wouldn't, I wouldn't.
boards. Yeah, but I mean, the pay's going down. I wouldn't.
Ooh, so is it pecuniary if you're causing yourself loss?
quick,
There still is a pecuniary in, regardless of which way it goes.
Okay,
We think it goes up. but
Jeff.
Jeff's got his-
I'd just like to make sure we're applying logic consistently here. If we're arguing that Rory has some sort of pecuniary conflict, then we certainly should have thrown out the senator motion.
I think I'm actually
Based on
inclined
fact-
to agree with Jeff here that this shouldn't just be a Rory motion. It doesn't make sense for a director who's coming on board to do that. We could do the same thing where we say Rory Norris and someone. I wouldn't hate that.
Wait, no, sorry.
No?
No, I was just talking about the motion approval itself. Like, if we're discussing rejecting this based on pecuniary interest, which I don't think we should, then we would have to revisit the senator motion.
What's the logic behind that? Because I'm not carrying the senator motion.
Well, I mean, if we're saying that we should throw this motion out because an incoming director is,
No, I don't think I was trying to say we should throw this out. I was just trying to say it seems like we're trying to lower and raise at the same time.
Yes.
Doesn't
oh
really
yeah,
click
sorry,
to me.
I was addressing other comments. Yeah, I heard what you were saying, Alex. But there was another comment, I think, about pecuniary interest. Just for sake of time, I think we should skip over that conversation unless we want to reopen discussion on the senator motion as well.
You know, I'm a little bit lost at this point. We lost somebody. I don't know who. But we're willing to let Rory bring forward a motion that would lower his own pay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, pass it. Let's see what the students have to say about this.
This one from an optic standpoint for you, it's fully transparent. You're allowing the full membership to
Yeah.
weigh in. So there's a lot of positive. It's a little weird, but,
Um,
and he will have just been, the election will be confirmed before you do.
Like in the same like.
yeah.
No one's gonna sue us over this, so let's not kid ourselves.
Okay.
Move on. Like,
Let's move.
This is a good level of transparency though, because I think
That's the other piece. You can tie yourselves in knots and you don't. need
Sure.
this much.
Net benefits, suability.
Is anyone gonna lose sleep over this one? If we continue.
Let's move on.
Yay! Moving on. Okay. Don't ask that question unless you want to know the answer. That's the first of the easy ones. Wow. Now let's go to the mostly easy ones. We're starting with another ARIA motion. This is ARIA's CASA motion that we're going to jump to.
I would actually love it if board supports this as a board member. If not, I'll carry it. Hey, put it to a vote. I'll carry it either way.
I bet you would like it if everyone supported it.
Well, I think it's important to have color.
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch it.
Okay. If what has appetite, if not, I'll carry it. I'll have the vote.
Okay. This one is setting a 1% fee to fund CASA membership explicitly.
For $1.
Sorry, $1. That should be $1 per student, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Does that already make sense within the motion?
It's something.
Wait, Aria, is it per term or per student?
It is like $1 per term you're increasing per student.
$1 per term per
Every
student.
student pays $1. We could have just increased the advocacy by $1.
All right, do we,
It would have been the same.
Can we just make a note to put that, can we just make a note to make that word in?
Esther, are you able to make a note that we should be explicit that it's $1 per student per term?
Like, makes
Thank you very much. Just so that, because $1 federal advocacy fee is a little vague,
That's fair.
especially it's only $1 to join CASA?
It's
Why don't you do that?
it's only $1 to get a seat with even the prime minister.
oh, yeah, how convincing.
Wow, okay.
Not Excel sheets.
Any more about the CASA motion going to AGM? Also, I really enjoy that Aria has dated everything 2025, which is real fun. Technically correct.
But I still wonder, is it no board appetite then to have that as a board motion?
We'll do that later. I think we established we'll do that later. Let me check the chat. Okay.
Good.
CASA moved into the, that seems fine to have section. The next one is expansion of the Student Life Center, which I think is an interesting one because it does something that I think is a little bit sneaky, and would like to spend a little bit more time on this one, which is it forces our hand on long range plan.
Is it the bomb shelter plan?
Yes, this one is called Rory. It's now called Rory Norris Bomb Shelter Plan. You might have a version that's called Matthew Schwartz Bomb Shelter Plan. They are identical, other than the fact that Matthew Schwartz is no longer the primary supporter of this motion. So you see, there's no yellow, except for in the title, where I couldn't highlight in yellow while it was clear. But this is now just a Rory Norris motion. Otherwise, it is identical. So. Sure, Ari, you can start us off, and then I wouldn't mind Alex speaking to this as our chair for long-range planning.
The only thing I would bring up is, like, the numbers. There's no reason really to reject this outside of, are these numbers, where did they come from? Is it $75 a student? What was the data behind this random number that popped up? So you could argue that, you know, I don't want to pull out the list of 6 on things, but like that. You know, unless there's some type of good justification, like, I was sort of here's a green from the amendment, but look, how did you get these numbers? So that's the only thing I'm flagging, that there's a little bit of a, where did we come up with this monetary number? Maybe that causes our personal issues.
Those are fair questions to ask. If the proposal goes forward to amend,
Yeah.
those are exactly fair questions to ask. Remember the other thing, even at the annual meeting, as members are discussing these, there could be modifications that come to the proposals too.
Right.
That put them into looking at all of the history pieces and the costs.
So Alex, this would lock us into having bomb shelter be part of the plan.
No,
No?
but yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is in the current plan,
Okay.
and there's no way to indicate that would be in the new plan unless we ask for it to go in. But it would sort of informally lock us into that sentiment of having the lounge plan be a long-range plan priority. Whether the consultants read about it or not, it would sort of, you're right, in that sense, it would put us into that corner.
But it's not something that you would think is so changing. Like it's been a previous plan, obviously, but you don't think it's that troublesome?
Thank goodness we've got the long-range planning executive committee here, Mike and Suzanne as well to back me up, but I don't think it's super dangerous. I think this.
I didn't think you would, but I thought it would be worthwhile talking about just to make sure.
No,
You guys weren't going to be like, actually, we're going to destroy the bomb shelter.
Yeah,
That's
no.
what this is leading towards.
It'll be interesting to see, because we're in that long-range plan, we are also gonna get an operational plan. Stays internal, and it's very exciting.
Okay, any more discussion around the now Rory Norris bomb shelter plan? Alex again.
Yes, this was the other point. This directly conflicts with the other motion about freezing WUSA fees. Like,
Yes.
it is direct, like,
Oh yeah, it does.
raise and freeze, all in the.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that one.
On the same,
I appreciate your concern because it is valid.
big flag.
Mike did have one thing, which is the be it further resolved can't actually force us to adjust greater than the CPI by our own bylaws.
It seems like there is precedent for this. In the past, we've done multi-year increases where we said we'd increase it by this year by X amount. Next year, this is sort of the AGM approving that increase in advance. So I don't see this as like the specific example I'm thinking to the student life fee that we did last year.
I'll let
That's the thing, why?
I think, Mike, we also at the AGM at the time, maybe ANN, I'm not sure, created the capital fee for that exact purpose. That was $15 with no attached. This has actually got more specifics than that when it was created there. So I think there is a precedent for it.
Isn't it reckless for us to do that with them? I'm talking about the fiduciary one, but is that worthless for the board? I mean, I think the motion is fine, I'm just saying what is the number? What are we gonna do?
Then that's the condition that for your
That's what I said. I'm thinking, next, what are we gonna do?
Okay. Any further thoughts, including the warning from Mike? I heard a beep. Oh,
I mean, yeah, I'll almost do this.
I mean, sorry, does the warning from Alex will stand for anything or
oh, sorry.
no?
But yours, you said you didn't have a warning.
Just like with the whole, can we, is that?
Freeze in the thing.
Oh, yeah, no. That one's going to come up where we're going to get there, but I think that one has other trouble with it.
Yeah.
That's why I've been kept on brushing it off.
Okay.
And also why I brought up 6.B specifically.
Right then.
Bomb shelter plan. Okay to go to the agenda. Approve. The next one is the most recent version of Friday Zala's Queer Living Learning Community motion, which is a lot of whereas. There's a lot of whereases. I don't know if you've noticed how many whereases there are. There are 29 whereas statements.
Oh, wow.
But it does try to align with other policy stuff. You'll notice, for instance, section 26 through 29 is alignment with WUSA values. They are subcategorized to help you read them, at least. It's long, but it's formatted nicely. The actual recommendations there being formal statement in support of a QLLC, a working with campus housing to develop a timeline for outcomes for a QLLC, using the trans resident experience framework, looking to a lot of this isn't actually like locusing either. It's like the first two are sort of right, like setting an advocacy policy and having a formal statement. The other ones are like consider doing this, make sure that campus housing and EDI are talking to each other, which we already do, and other advocacy stuff. So there's also a big old attachment section. It's a long one, but this is adding an advocacy priority, which I would say we've already kind of been talking about this. I don't think this is a risky advocacy priority to add. I've actually had conversations with Goldie Gill already about this. The sort of heard it on the grapevine is that there's recommendations coming from EDIR already around trans residents stuff. So I don't think that this is drifting us in a way that we wouldn't have support if this does pass. But also, we're not even really supposed to consider the part. So, to queer living learning community, any discussion on having this motion come forward? This was one of the ones that I thought would be easiest. And it seems like I'm right. It's finding on the agenda. Damn. Friday did a ton of work writing that one. There's been a lot of updates to this one specifically. The next one is another Friday Zala one. This is the accessibility fund, which tasks the elections and referendum committee with figuring out how to do an accessibility fund. It also affirms that the poster run service can be used, which I think is already technically allowed, but just not advertised. And it's like, so it's just making it really clear. Any thoughts on the election and referendum accessibility fund? All right, you guys are quiet on these too. Not that surprising. All right. Well, I'm gonna take that as you guys are chill, and no one's telling me they're not. So I'm gonna take that as your silence as that's fine. Okay, what's next on the list from Esther? Improving. Oh, now we're going to the very top of the list. This is the one that we started with, and then Esther's list was actually much better, so I appreciate it. Thank you very Campus mapping. This is the Anthony Chen motion, campus mapping. This is tasking WUSA to make a map. It's kind of what it does.
Make a map for.
I like this one.
Make a Tunnel Bridge map. Jeff.
Sure, just a quick note for time's sake, can we keep descriptions short and any responses minimal, unless there is discussion about approving them, rejecting them from the agenda?
Sure. I'll speed up. Sorry. Anything on map? Okay, I'm not seeing anything on map. Anything in the chat on map? I'm not seeing anything on map. Map goes to that section. Actually, make sure I didn't drop that in the wrong one. There we go. Next, we have the imprint fee. I think this is our first actual one that is going to have some discussion to it. Please find the updated version that has a very important whereas that I think matters a lot. Does anyone want to start us off? And I will add myself to the speaking list after that person, because I don't want to just talk straight. Imprint fee, cutting the imprint fee. That seems like it could be Aria.
So in the publication manager, that's my question. I'm gonna ask. Did the publication manager deliver on this? Did they work with to come up with detailed plans?
I think it's been recently.
Yeah, I mean, the plan was sort of already in the works with, since we took over publications.
Right.
Our previous publications committee and the subsequent boards and bodies after that approved what imprint is now, right? Since we've taken it over in 2021. So a lot of those deliverables are met. Well, that includes new websites, switch to magazine print, a change in our staffing, volunteer structure. And then finally, the one big one here was making sure the budget is more like the unit is not running on an annual operating deficit. And as you folks see, we presented a pretty balanced budget this year. That's what we're expecting. So majority of those deliverables are for update with some of the metrics and such, and where we are by the end of this fiscal year. And I just recently section of their website also publicly published a lot of these facts and figures broken down by percentage in a pie chart of where the student money is going.
Well,
so I was going to comment quite importantly that I think that whereas being there is very important, because without it, this would seem pretty personal, especially the line whereas imprint meals and entertainment spending exceeds my tuition feels like it brings in a bit of an angle that I would worry about. How does board feel about the fact that the publications manager actually has put out that report, right? That's correct? The report is public now?
It's not in the form of a report.
Okay.
I mean, it's a form of on the About Us section of our website. We published the breakdown of where the fees are going. Obviously, one of the actionables in terms of report was a balanced budget and operating. That's what we're expecting this year. And I believe that meals and entertainment line, the last time we checked, was under $1,000 spent year to date for this operating year. So it's nowhere even near that far. And we've I've asked to kind of dig a little deeper. They do feed a lot of their students, writers. They still have volunteer writers and they're writing nights. So there's a lot of, that's not management having meals and entertainment with suppliers or anything. That's usually the same reason we feed you folks here. We feed our other writers as well.
I got to speak in the school, but I don't think it's in person. I will put myself on the list, so I think I should.
You could feel free to go. Just be loud enough.
I think you could go forward. I don't see any issues with this motion, actually.
Okay,
That's my
Suzanne?
I'm not sure that it's talking about outcomes per se, but
Yeah.
I think boards should be aware of factors for what the potential outcome
Mhm.
would be and give it some thought.
I think that that's a fair point that going based off the estimates from before the fee was mandatory, this would be close to a 70% cut, and it would leave them with pretty much just the amount that they would use to do printing by itself, which would not be enough to be able to run imprint in its current form. So without a groundswell of student support where all of a sudden everyone is paying the imprint fee optionally, the combination of both the fee being reclassified as an optional and the publications fee could be quite substantial. The question before us is kind of whether or not this is intended in bad faith. And I think I probably actually would argue, that maybe this is bad faith. I'm really unhappy with the meals and entertainment line. I think it points to, I don't think it's a fair way of assessing the situation. I think it kind of presumes the question. But I'm willing to listen to other board members.
I guess in so many words, Nick, what you're saying is the context that the motion sets out inherently villainizes imprint.
Yes, actually, that is exactly what I'm saying. That this makes imprint out to be villain. Yeah, that inherently troublesome. It's not coming forward in such a way that I think is respectful.
That's fine.
But
Maybe
is
if you
it so
remove.
disrespectful? Sorry, Arya, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, Judge, we said keep going.
Oh, okay. Is it so disrespectful that you feel it definitively violates one of the criteria laid out in section 6 in ACA?
Ooh, because I know my answer for one of the ones that's coming up. Am I allowed to bring in the fact that I've talked to this person before? Or do I have to only use the information that we have here?
I would say, at least this is how we handle in petitions. You usually just try to handle it face to face. Like it's not a really good idea to start bringing in additional context that's not really immediately verifiable.
Then I will argue that this gets close to the line, but I think it doesn't cross the line. But I think it's really close to the line.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I personally don't think it's a good motion, right?
Yeah.
I just can't find a reason to.
I think we should give Anthony a chance to amend it. I have, Zara. I went back with him and I said, do you want to come to board, talk about it? Do you want to change these numbers based on a financial outlook? This is what we've ended up with. Do we want to, I think, all right. Am I right in assessing that if we don't approve this, it would be under 6B? This is bad faith? Do we want to actually do a vote on this one? Because I think it's close enough that probably we should, right? Okay.
Okay.
All
Sorry,
in favor? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Can we open discussion on this if there is a motion being put forth or some sort of?
Oh, sorry. I was doing this as a straw poll vote of whether or not to include this in the agenda because we're all within an amendment still, right?
Right. Oh, no, that's fair. Like, can we talk about it first?
Oh.
Before this?
Sorry, sure.
So I wasn't aware that this was
My-
accumulating to the point of putting it forward to a vote.
All right.
So
My understanding was that Anthony did not want to amend this motion further. And we could move this one to the end of the agenda and I could send him an email about it, but we do kind of need to make a decision by the end of the meeting on this one, right?
I'm not sure where we're at with, like, I don't think it'd be appropriate for us to ask for any amendments at this point. We're approving the final agenda, but I guess I'm just looking for the rationale to reject it under 6B. Like what specifically is the clear personal claim or personal grievance against the corporation?
Probably good point. Yeah, I would say that the arguing it within the context of my tuition and comparing it to that is one in which it seems to be a personal claim against it's a personal grievance against the corporation, right? Not the entire corporation, but an aspect of the corporation. But also, as I think I've argued, I think that this is barely not enough. But if it was to be enough, I think that's what I would ask that we would vote on as a straw poll, is whether or not people think it is on the wrong side of exception 6B. Does that make sense, Jeff? Do you think that's not too crazy?
Sure.
Okay. Are we okay to do a straw poll on whether or not? Sorry, Zara says.
Oh, I didn't know so.
What if it said average student tuition instead of my tuition? But that's not what he said. Anyways,
If Control F my.
and you said multiple chances to change it. Sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, if like, do we think this whereas significantly influences the results? Like, if we're arguing about the specific use of word choice here.
It's the spirit as well, or like if that.
Yeah,
It means the spirit.
sorry. Yeah, no worries. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
The 6B is about the spirit in a way, right? That doesn't know the fee went down $1. Yeah, okay. We can. I think it's probably reasonable to say, do we think it crosses the line of 6B? All in favor of thinking this crosses the line of 6B, it's not worth having on the agenda. I have to count the online ones.
I wouldn't mind changing.
There's no online. Okay. All who think this is not a violation of 6B, this should be on the agenda.
So what does that mean?
We have Jay, we have Jeff. The online one's taking a second to load in.
A little bit, very curious.
Yeah, I have Jay, Jeff, Matthew, Zara, Teresa, and abstentions, which I think is just me and Maricini, because everybody else online voted.
Thank you.
All right, it makes it for now. That one, I think that one is on. Our next one, however, is Anthony Chen's next motion. Oh, Teresa, do you have something to say, or are you still voting?
Sorry, that's a mistake. I'm getting my computer set up.
No worries. I'm just gonna assume you're not talking. Okay, just good. The next one, I think we're gonna have a similar discussion about, but it's the general fee freeze to all of the WUSA fees.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to start by being a little bit pissed off because I think that whereas the co-op fee is increased by 4% over the years 2019 to 2024, both is actually the math is wrong and also ignores the fact that why hasn't the co-op fee increase gone up, which was an entire part of, and maybe I'm being too personal and taking this to heart, but like I just spent a lot of time making sure it didn't go up. So it's yeah. Thank you, Teresa, who was also with me on that project, among other people. Discussion on this.
I have one.
Sure. Arya, start us off.
I actually think they should be rejected. And I think it's on first of all, like, this is such a great motion. There's no writing, no nothing. They're just like freeze the fees. But we also have a fiduciary duty to make sure the company doesn't get hurt. And if we're looking at freezes like this, the company, I believe, will get hurt. And I think that this person has not given any justification for anything.
Thank you. Sorry, that was where I was going, which is so has to reject it. There's no justification.
Yeah. That's the way I would phrase it as well.
There's a lot of bleeps and bloops.
Should we maybe give him a chance to
It's not complete, no.
there or no?
He's had the opportunity.
Okay.
For these ones, I have talked. Does anyone other than Arya feel the need to speak to freeze all WUSA fees? Yeah, sure, Alex.
I've said it before, I will say it again. You're talking about raising a fee, raising all of them at the same time. We cannot do both. Just cannot do both. It doesn't make any sense. It probably harms us. AGM wise, it just doesn't work.
There's some things.
Oh, sorry. Brian.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sure. And then more of a process question maybe for the board, and I'm ignorant to this, so good information for me. If this motion happens first and gets approved, and the other motions happen and they get approved, what happens?
That's a great question.
Right? I get the argument that they go up first.
I feel like this is the indirect response here.
Well, I'm just actually noticing this is for 1 year and the other one probably wouldn't come into effect. But
Technically, these don't work. So for example, for one of their CASA is like.
That's a new fee being implemented. It's a $1.
Anyway, no, I should be like, get the CASA do.
But I think that's a worthy conversation both for whether that's right now or later is order of operations and how this actually flows through a general meeting.
Okay. Sandra, then Jay.
Mine was just more a suggestion when we do finalize what the agenda is, group the ones that go through that are similar. So anything that has a financial implication, for example, put them all together. So Alex, it makes your point that because there's nothing magical about how these have to go. So you might want to look at theming them a little bit, which also helps let you have the conversation. Okay, we've just approved 6 of these and there's a potential impact of.
Okay.
If you have a phone, like we'll probably still be
Okay.
I feel like we're leaning in a certain direction, but would we? Oh, sorry, we have Jay first. Jay.
Yeah, it's real quick. Like, can we fact check these numbers?
I have at least one of them is wrong.
Other than the co-op.
Oh, the co-op one's definitely wrong.
Actually,
First line's technically correct. Second line is
4%. Sorry, is the co-op
sort of wrong.
4%?
No,
I think that's correct.
I remember doing the math on this. 4 is rounding pretty hard. Let me see if I actually have that for you.
Like, my point was, like, if this motion carries, like, make it to the general meeting, can we make sure this?
I'm sorry. I am being impeded. It's 3.7.
Yeah, my point was, like, if this motion carries, can we fact check these numbers?
I guess we could amend them.
I've been meaning to allowing this to go. Let's first figure.
So that where I was going to lead here was, if we were to reject this, which of the exceptions would we reject it by?
It's not complete misinformation.
Okay. Is that a valid reason to reject?
It can be because the corporation has the ability to set what the form you want completed, and it's not a complete proposal. We don't have it documented, but you have that ability to set how you want to see
The rights
proposals come forward.
The rights of confidence by this section are being abused for publicity.
Oh, actually,
argue that a little.
You know what? It is populist.
Stunt.
That this is a bit of a stirring shit for the sake of kind of interesting approach, Arya. I don't think you're wrong. I think I was thinking of the term publicity in the context of press, but is there a personal grievance against the organization that this member has said. Would it look bad on us if we threw it out? Virginie? Okay. So I think it's a valid question from Zara, though, because if this was very popular, I would say yes, it would. Like if we had dozens of students submitting motions that all said something similar, yeah, then I think it would actually be a sort of reputational risk not to allow one.
Is there nothing
Let's not do that with you.
about the call?
You're not one of them. Again, there is no reputation.
Rounded. So
One guy submitted, no one will even see it pop up. We're not do W. We don't do things.
we need a reason, right? Yeah, there's a loud minority in fee increases. Sure, Esther.
Jeff's initial point about board making recommendations. So if you might not throw it out outrightly, but you can make a recommendation not to move or something.
Wait, does that care?
It does. Then you guys.
But I also think if something, believe me, board doesn't have any.
It's on what we know because of the personal, what was it? Not the personal.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a great approach. Just because it becomes a he said, she said situation, right? Where we could make anything up about anybody and say, oh, I've talked to them about this on the side and blank, right? So I think it is valid to look at the text itself.
Because there is no text, I would actually say it does.
You think it's incomplete?
Yeah, for that reason, it is a personal. There is no justification, there's no reasoning why for the greater community.
They do have a reason, which is cost of living. They have one reason, which is this minorly could impact cost of living.
I think it's not complete. That could be our reason.
Shoot.
Jay mentioned a question, are these numbers actually accurate? Because if they're not accurate, then I don't think it should go.
My one is.
Okay.
Right. The co-op one is not.
Co-op one is not, but it's rounded.
Fair enough.
If it just rounded, then it's fine, right? 3.7% rounded to 4%. That's not information.
It would feel pedant, like it would feel rude to deny it because of a 0.3.
Yeah.
What about the operations fee increasing by 10%?
This is right. I'm just checking right now.
Wait, can you show me where it says living cost?
Not everything go through. Why does it
See additional support and current.
Oh,
Hold on.
no?
Yeah.
Students need additional support, so cut fee.
Yes, from the issue.
In the current cost of living, like as if this is gonna change anything cost of living wise.
Yeah, I see your point, but then that's like the personal feeling of like I feel like we deliver more, but like technically, right?
Operations.
I agree on.
Operations correct.
It's like, it's not detailed enough to a point where we have an understanding of why, like, but I also think when you represent everyone from where as students, it's like,
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Have taken bigger risks this year than rejecting this. So.
There's not anyone yet, so it's hard to, but you can just look on the screen.
I think that's Jeff not being muted.
Okay. Is it?
Sorry. Jay, you have your hand up, then we'll go to Jeff.
Technically, you don't need a reason to put up a motion, right?
I don't want to use 6A. I think 6A is acting in bad faith. But we could under 6A. Okay. Jeff. Jeffrey?
Hello.
Hi.
We not do 6C where it appears.
Does not relate to the affairs. It definitely relates to the affairs.
It relates
It's
to
nothing but the affairs, in fact.
All he talks about is increase. It's not really
That's
showing
the-
how it.
That's very much the.
But
Jeff, sorry.
No worries. In my view, the two paths, like the two reasonable options we have moving forwards are either to reject it under 6A, which I did say we should not do, but considering the scope, in my opinion, no argument really sticks apart from 6A here. Or if we don't wish to use 6A, then I believe the board should strongly recommend rejection of this motion. If the board does think it's maybe not in the best interests of students or the organization for this to move forwards, then because of the way we've set things up, we still can use 6A. Yes, it's not in good faith, but sometimes means ends. That does kind of go counter to what I said through the rest of the day, but I don't think any of the arguments stick is my point. Like, this is complete by all intents and purposes. If we look at past annual motions, there have been some as short and sweet as this.
No, yeah, but Jay, we could reject all of them under 6A.
We have these questions. They're not lawyers out there. We don't need to.
All right. Well,
You have this right.
Yeah. You know what? I would like to.
propose your straw poll because we're still. Propose your straw poll
Thank you, Nick. Sorry. Yeah, that's good. Straw poll. Let's see what people think.
on whether or not they want to reject.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
The reasoning could be. I think it's still personal because it's incomplete, and with that reason, I would argue it's a personal grievance.
I guess
Okay.
if no one else says,
Right.
I'll just add to that
Right.
that Anka does say that clearly has to be a personal grievance. So if we're all in agreement that it clearly is, then we can go down that line. But I don't know if it.
okay. Do we want to straw poll on this one? Oh, good. That could be, sure. All abstaining from this motion coming forward to the general meeting. Okay. All against this motion coming forward to the general meeting. It's 2. It's 3. And all for this motion coming to the general meeting. Which I don't like that this is where we are. But there you go. That carries. As disappointing as that is. All right.
The order of the agenda.
We'll do order.
Okay.
We can.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll do the order. Okay. Next one is KDU. KDU's divestment motion. Hey, Marvin. I didn't know you were in town.
Oh. Look what we have for you.
That's fine. Actually, you know what? Just hey, it would be reasonable to do like a 10-minute recess, both because Maricini is going to drop out for a couple minutes and then come back, and also because we've been here for a couple hours and 10 minutes is probably a reasonable time for recess. Okay. Are we okay with doing a 10-minute recess? Anybody? Yeah. Wonderful. Love the enthusiasm. Great. All right. Well, we'll reconvene at 8:22. Because many of us have to pee. Yeah.
Just have my thesis do it. No,
Wait, where is
because that's still technically what we're in. I hope you had a nice pee break. Before the break, we talked about some fee freeze motions, and I don't think any of us are happy. But our next one, going by Esther's wonderful list, is the KDU divestment motion, which you'll see should have an update. Did I forget to highlight it? It should. It does have an update. I guess I forgot to highlight it. I'm sorry. But the be it resolved now should read, WUSA, an organization dedicated to representing and listening to the concerns of students, must organize the students to take immediate action through a student strike, as the majority of undergraduate student body demands. That is the edit that I forgot to highlight. I apologize. But otherwise, most of this should look similar. They're also no longer saying every student in the university is seconding this, which was something that they had accidentally done on the first pass. Discussion on this one. Setting a pretty severe advocacy priority.
They want us to organize a student strike.
They,
Well, there's nothing that says we can't really do it, so yeah.
you have some insurance issues.
Well, that is a,
Suzanne,
doesn't.
if you want to go into confidential for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, we should go for this one thing.
For insurance reasons?
Insurance reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we'll be back as soon as possible, and we'll try and keep it just the insurance topic.
Wait, sorry, my mic was muted. Apologies.
Because I do have something to say in public section, which
I'll put myself on to actually.
I'll add you, and I'm also gonna go let the person if they're. Oh no. Oh, actually, Brian, are you able to run across the hall and see if they're still there?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just because you're closest to the door.
No problem.
We talked about insurance concerns related to it. But other than that, the rest of our discussion shouldn't be confidential. I'm going to start off with an interesting question, which is if we're looking at WUSA's scope, which I don't love, but if we were to reject this under like 6C in Ontario, are we even able to have a student strike? Because I know in Quebec you can do that. That's a Quebec thing. Is this a thing that is able to actually happen in Ontario? Is their request not something that a student organization in Ontario is allowed to do? Which I think is a honest reason to say that we can't do it, because it risks us no longer being a organization because of Ontario law, not because of any self-imposed, or I'll say insurance reason, because insurance reasons feel like a kind of a scapegoat sometimes. But that's where I'll start this thought is 6C the issue here, because we're not allowed to. We're not actually a union, we're an association. I have Arya, then I'll add Jeff to the list.
I agree with what Nick said there. That was actually very true. I also think like the previous reasons as well is enough for us to also be concerned. So I think either way, like I don't think there's room to move forward with this.
Hold on. Don't you remember? Is Jeff. That Alex. Sorry.
Oh, I'd be down to vote to reject on grounds of 6C.
And Alex.
I am also just seeing some stuff about students do need to formally vote for a strike. It has to be like a 2/3 thing.
Oh, okay.
Have to actually vote.
2/3 for using what, sorry?
Like students have to vote for strikes. If you have to.
Oh, yeah.
Like it has to be more similar.
Interpretation here, you have to vote for a strike. It's just, let's see how, like, you gotta, membership needs to vote on it.
What is
right?
So it's sort of like a referendum style thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is not
just not what
an AGM is in a way.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair too.
Keep it cleaner with just C.
Any additional thoughts on this? I'm guessing that if we're voting to reject, which I would ask that we straw poll on this one, it will be grounds of 6C, which is that we can't through AGM hold a strike. We have to do that through an actual strike body thing. Jeff. Was that not Jeff? Did I see wrong?
Oh yeah, no, sorry. It doesn't relate to, like, it's not within WUSA's purview. It doesn't relate in a significant way to, like, just not mentioning that at AGM, but yeah.
I guess I would argue in some ways this kind of, it's you could argue this is related to WUSA's purview, but I would think the weird part is this strike aspect, which is because of how our organization is set up. Do you want to straw poll on this?
Let's do it.
Any more discussion before a straw poll? Let's do abstentions first. All abstaining on the vote to include this in the agenda. Zara, Maricini. I'll say next. Oh, and Jay. It's a lot of abstentions. All four including this in the agenda. I think actually I think it's fine. I think I'm solo. Slick solo. All right, and all against including this in the agenda. Jeff, Alex, Aria, Teresa. That passes by actually quite a lot. There's a lot of abstentions. All right. And the reasoning behind that is that our AGM cannot approve a strike. That's not the mechanism for approving strikes. 6C. Is that correct? Especially those who voted to reject. 6C is the correct reason. We can't approve strikes via AGM.
One of the many, sure. Yeah.
But we need the main reason. That's our main reason.
That's not what 6C says. So we should probably go with one or the other.
Sorry.
Like that's why I mentioned, like, the whole AGM mechanism thing isn't related to 6C. 6C says that the proposal doesn't relate to WUSA.
Oh.
If you'd like to, you need to check in the articles of amendment or your letters patent.
Why not say all the different reasons that we talked about and give them a whole paragraph of justification? Because really, that's the only reason.
I think we just, like, say 6C and then we can list additional reasons below it. But that'd be my recommendation.
Which that WUSA is not set up as a union, so we don't have strikes in that way. That this would not be a mechanism because it's not fair. I'll Jeff, Alex, Aria, you have to decide because you guys are the ones who actually voted on this.
Only three? Everybody
else is doing.
Come on, y'all.
Oh, there might have been more.
Teresa.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Yes.
Are we generally in line? Like, I think I'm in line with what Jeff said.
Yes.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
Move that to the other folder, which is the rejected folder. And I'll let you guys be in charge of the reason. Okay, moving on. That's the end of the investment motion. Next category is officer compensation. Oh, we already did officer comp. No, we haven't.
We're back to
I think I have this as officer raises, but technically Arya is right. It's compensation.
compensation. Just let us use that wording.
Arya wouldn't be in conflict because this will not apply to him. That is what I would think. The recommendation on this being conferring and establishing a new play reflective of the workload of officers and one that doesn't allow for misunderstanding time commitment.
I'd also argue we should amend the name of that motion to be kind of white racist. It's okay, yeah.
I'll change it on my file system to say.
I just think there should be an external review of whatever board wants. Like it's very allows board of looking at officer positions and the workload they do. My contract says 35. Let's not kid ourselves. So it's a conversation.
Point of order. Just for time's sake, let's keep it to the motion relevance.
Okay, Jeff. Good point, Jeff. Anybody else on discussion on this one being brought by Arya? Oh, sorry, Brian.
I would propose a friendly amendment. Is that allowed?
You know what? Sure, whatever.
I just think you should put a time frame on this because it doesn't say new executive year. So at that AGM, in theory, if this passes, it could come back to board and there could be a change in compensation for your last month. That if it's
I agree. I think that's friendly. Put it in a way that affects
effective next day.
Yeah.
Or new governing year.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Put the wording so it doesn't affect me in any ways.
I don't call thank you, but just transferring to the student. No, I think that's fun to me. Not get into that dialogue at the general meeting.
Yeah.
That's you write that one down because I can't write that down myself because it's a PDF. And I don't like Adobe. Any other thoughts on this one?
That's good.
Oh, wait, this one you've added the month to. This one you say February 2025. All the other ones will say year.
Must have been if it moved, when I was writing. Well, I agree, Suzanne, it could be about.
This is
One could just, this,
we get into the cleverness of ordering these. We've already talked about this. We'll put this at the bottom in case we lose quorum.
Yeah.
this one could also just be, it's well.
I agree. I don't disagree there, I think. Put at the bottom, give board a mandate to look into.
Any other discussion on this? Anyone want to see this struck? Okay. I am gonna think not, because time, and also nobody's saying anything. What is next on the list? We have standardizing the removal of officers by the board of directors. This is one of mine. The one and the other are very similar, actually. If I don't know if you've seen the one that's the already amended one, but one of them is setting it to 50%, the other one is 2/3. But otherwise, these are very similar. The justification doesn't matter, actually, because that's not what we're discussing. Bylaw amendment, problems with this bylaw amendment.
It's a bylaw amendment and it needs to go through your governance process before it goes to the annual meeting. So it should not be going forward at this point because the board hasn't even looked at it. Bylaw amendments, according to ANCA, are recommendations from the board.
We've done this before with member motions, just going directly to AGM.
Reflecting the bylaw, whether you've done it in the past or not, is, I think you need to look at, ANCA's fairly consistent about governance. Anything that's changing the bylaws has a process to go through, and your own bylaw also has a process for bylaw amendments, which has it going through the governance committee to the board and then to the annual meeting. So
is there any controversy with this? Like you could just push it through governance and just get it done with like.
The other thing, yeah, because once the board approves amendments to the bylaw, as you know, it comes into full force and effect and then is ratified at the next annual meeting. So you're not losing anything.
at all.
Nobody supposed to ratify, like, we can
Actually, hold on.
governance tomorrow morning and.
We could do something. We could do it now where we approve this and have it.
Well, be careful about that because there's also a timeline of when you have to allow. let
Sorry,
them
point of order.
know it.
Sure, Jeff.
Can we enforce speaking order?
Yep. Okay. Jeff.
Thanks. Just adding on that, Anka
It's just-
17.6 lays out that members are explicitly have the right to raise any bylaw amendments at meetings of members. A member entitled to vote at an annual meeting of members may make a proposal to make, amend, or repeal a bylaw in accordance with Section 56.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. Well, with that in mind, are there any problems then?
There's no issue, okay.
I have some questions for you. Amenable to changing may attend for legal counsel to must attend, and I think it should probably be for anytime we talk about any officer.
Sure.
So president.
These, I'm okay with update.
Yeah, for all three, because
That's-
it says right now only the executive director as well. I think you should have, if you're looking at an officer. for all.
That's fine. I was just, the actual problem I was trying to solve there was the way that it works in practice was that VP removal required a 50% vote,
Right.
which, why is that one separate from the other two?
You're telling me that
Sure, let's I'm happy to make that. Where did I put that? Where did I lose this? I just opened it.
Instead of executive director, then
And then, sorry, legal counsel of the corporation must attend any meeting where the removal of an officer or, sure, okay. That seems very reasonable, Suzanne. Let me, while I'm making that update, anybody else have anything to say about this one? Must attend. Not seeing anybody online and not seeing anybody in the room. And I will take it as a friendly change to say must attend and officer. Okay. Anybody now? All right. We're good? That one's fine? Cool. Next up is governance structure. Which is our second to last one. Is that right? That seems shocking. It is. It's our second to last one. This one has had updates, and I have not had the chance to look through because it was a lot. The be it further resolved is the only thing I'm going to read because that's the part that kind of matters in a way. WUSA is tasked with exploring and proposing a governance new structure by AGM 2026, working with the presented proposal with modifications from student consultation. Be it further resolved that the proposed bicameral structure and the responsibilities of council and board broadly reflect the provided document when presented at AGM 2026. Anyone feel the need to speak to this one? Valuable to hear. I wouldn't hate it, but also cognizant of time, but yes, I will do a couple of things.
An important one. I think I'm first sort of just trying to understand the problem that we're trying to solve with it. I don't know whether Teresa would mind speaking to sort of the intent and the why.
I would also comment that some of this did come from a long discussion I had with Abigail Simpson. This is not just a Teresa.
Okay, I'm just
Sure.
I wouldn't know that. So
Teresa, you're on the hot seat. But Suzanne.
It's just a question.
Suzanne.
Sorry, should I speak?
Yes.
So the motion is pretty lengthy, so It does get into pretty exhaustive detail about some specific examples, but mainly the motion is trying to cut to the heart of the role that students should be playing in a student association like WUSA, and particularly the involvement with regards to student advocacy and driving that advocacy, in contrast to more of like this, like the business strategic and operationally strategic work that board is often having to juggle alongside the advocacy. And so the concern there is that, and even actually this isn't in the motion, unfortunately, but I did come across the exact passage today from the Risser and Hughes report that states that some students felt that switching to this board only structure kind of took away the emphasis on advocacy, and that students felt dissuaded to participate in WUSA in a student advocate capacity just because of the other duties that board members have. And so the bicameral structure, which is markedly different from the original structure that was in place prior to the governance change, that's the thinking behind returning to a bicameral structure that has a council to serve solely in the advocacy realm, if you will. So that was the thinking there. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into any of the examples in the motion, but that's the essence of it.
Sure. Would it be seen as friendly if it's slightly amended to say to also do a governance review, to bring somebody to the governance review, and then instead of AGM voting to change the governance structure, it's a referendum we run. So it's not 100 people or like whoever shows up that day. That creates the change. Like
it will have a bylaw impact, anything that changes your governance structure, so you will have to do it at any.
So even if a referendum
No matter what you do with it, any of the tweaking that you do, well, any of the changes you're making to the governance structure would have to go to an annual meeting.
I don't want to debate the context of the motion, but like my only thing is if it's like 100 people, like you know what I'm trying to say. I don't know if it's the best governance practice.
You would like to see a referendum, then an AGM, sort of.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my.
Suzanne.
Regarding just the process and how the decision or choice was made to bring this forward at a members meeting rather than through, I guess I said, our current process through our board and governance committee and that process that we can discuss for the conversation before they take it to a meeting.
I can at least speak to that a little bit, where I know that there was some frustration this year with governance committee's ability to get through all that it wanted to get through. So I think a big part of it is tasking now in the future an actual having the structure brought forward to focus on the governance review, whereas I think some things didn't pan out in as much detail, or there wasn't enough time for them to actually go through with the same detail. So yeah, sorry, but I do see Teresa has a 2, and then I'll Jay after that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Nick already kind of answered, but I just wanted to ask, is it, do you feel like the process that we followed is a concern substantive enough to reject the motion for AGM and to reroute through the governance channels?
I guess if I'm just going to speak on my own, I guess, or on behalf of the org, I think that on some level, yes, in terms of consultation and conversation with the folks that also would be greatly impacted by this kind of a change, it, I think, would be helpful to have those conversations look a little bit kind of back with our experiences with previous, as well as sort of insight on what old, current, and what you potentially are looking at us, I guess, looking further into. Yeah, I think it would have been really helpful for us to engage in those conversations before we take it to an annual members meeting.
I have Jay next.
Yeah, so I was sitting on the old council. I think I'm the only one in this board who sit on the old board. This is a long time ago. There's a very few reasons that why we want to change to our current, like the board of director.
Sorry, I'm just got a point of order really quickly. Just to make
Sure.
sure, Jay, that you're not getting into the meat of the motion, just like the viability.
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
AGM
I
in the
know, I
interest
know, I
of
know.
time.
So I'm just trying to give you a little bit background. So a little bit, yeah. So I'm just trying to say, this is a very few reasons why I want to transfer to this model. It's like the old model is not working. No one's working. The elected council is not working. It's very inefficient. That's why the old council decided we need a change. So I'm not sure if you know the background story of this. And
Jay, I think the rest of the motion does actually speak to the familiarity with the history.
Yeah, so like if you want to change back to the model, like the previous model, I feel like we need more conversation first before we can move this to general meeting.
And Jay, be resolved that does not actually implement. It's tasking the next board. Sorry, Teresa.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to say the exact same thing, Nick, and I guess by extension to Suzanne's concern as well. The consultations and the discussions with staff and folks impacted at WUSA can all happen in the lead up as this incoming board explores the change, so long as it remains in the broad spirit of the proposed motion at hand. None of this will go into effect immediately. That's why there are no specific bylaw changes, of course. And the last thing that I'll note, right, I guess I just said it. I think I had another point, but I can't remember. Sorry, I'll just shut up.
That's fine. Melissa.
I guess the other thing that I just wanted, can you folks hear me?
Yes.
I guess the other thing that I just wanted to sort of ask or bring forward is it seems like the piece that, keeps coming back is the structure and the way in which we're doing advocacy and making sure students are at the heart of that advocacy work, not only providing direction, which obviously we have done our best to put a number of different things into place with the change in governance structure, things like RSP and making sure we're collecting representative data that we make our decisions on so that the student voice is still at the heart of all of that, but that if there are still questions or concerns around the way in which students can engage in that advocacy work, should we be, instead of reviewing our governance structure, should we be looking at our advocacy structure and activities and maybe
sorry,
doing a
Melissa, I
review on
hate to
that?
jump in again. Like, I really hate to keep doing this, but I guess I worry that we're wandering into the territory of like the viability of the motion itself, rather than can this AGM in a way that is not actively harmful as per ANCA and for the health of the organization.
I guess for me, it was, sorry, can I respond to that? I guess that's a two. Or still part of my one, which is that if the original discussion that was being had was that this would have gone potentially through board channels first, then this might have been a piece of that conversation that we would have had. So not suggesting it's a discussion about the motion at hand, but that if we would have gone through those channels, that might have been one of the things that I would have brought up, is that if that advocacy is actually what we need to look at, then again, potentially routing that back through internal processes and taking a look at that, because it is a fairly new structure still within the last couple of years, how we're doing that advocacy work differently. So again, totally reasonable that we want to continue to make sure we've got students at the right part of that work.
Actually, I'll yield my time to Jeff.
Okay. Bueller? No, I think you're muted, Jeff.
I am muted. Thank you.
Oh.
I appreciate the conversation that's gone on about this. I did, looking at the time and for everyone's sake, did want to ask if anyone on the board had any comments specifically pertaining to the motion at hand, which is the rejection or approval of this motion.
I do have a question, actually, point of information. I didn't, because I was looking to see if there's a friendly amendment that can be made. That wasn't really answered.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we
sorry.
wanted quite a far ways away. Good point, Arya.
I don't have to, but that's
Teresa.
Oh, sorry, Arya. That was the point that I was going to answer. I'm so sorry.
Would you be okay with adding a referenda step?
I don't think so. And we did consider the route of a referendum, Arya. Not to get too into the weeds, but I'll just say that motion was specifically structured as such to ensure that
that the student ownership had a commitment from board to follow through, because the implication with the referendum would be that obviously, like, if it, for whatever reason, if it doesn't come through, then the change is not going to happen. We felt that the AGM was an adequate mechanism for students to sound off on whether they would like to see the change go through. And with regards to the referendum mechanism in particular, as a function for student consultation, we find that particularly when it comes to student governance, like if I came up to like Joe Schmo in SLC and asked, what do you think about WUSA transitioning to a bicameral structure based on a board council model? That guy's not answering me. He's walking away. And so we worried a bit about about bringing it into a referendum format where there's ample room for misinformation or just lack of engagement. The consultation pieces that we're looking for can come at least after the motion is passed, and we can do things like intercepts and roundtables to better understand what students are looking for from this governance change once we have the approval from the AGM.
Okay, cool. And then the second part of that was, would you guys be open to a governance review being also friendly amended in there that WUSA would run? By that, I mean like an external group that also comes, like a contractor that would do the review. Okay, Alex.
Did this not stem, quote unquote, from a governance review? Is that not what we charged governance committee to do? Was a governance review, and then this is what?
Right, but what my point is,
now it came out of the cauldron.
Yeah.
No, that's it. I'm done. But I'm saying this came out of as someone who's on governance committee and conveniently voted against this, but that's not what this is about. Someone on governance committee, this came from the quote unquote governance review that we tasked the governance committee to do. And now we're dealing with this. This is the recommendation.
What governance review? I didn't
we asked them to go through and review. This is where this came from. Is that not what the NUSH motion was on, and then it created this? Or am I thinking of something totally different?
So dealt with that, the governance.
We not asked the governance committee to do governance review?
So what was asked for was for them to conduct a health check, and that was not done because that kept getting tabled at the meetings because feedback was that people have not had the time to look at the reports from recently.
So the health check never happened.
It never happened.
And now we've got a proposal to change the governance.
Which is why I had a friendly hope, if it is accepted, to bring an external group to do a governance review, and then they can highlight that report can perhaps help the board in doing a better job. I'm just
Teresa, direct response.
I guess just a clarifying question, Aria. Do you feel that the presence of a governance review or lack thereof would implicate this motion as being uncompliant under ANCA?
That's not wrong.
Or just like a question about the
friendly
motion
amendment.
itself?
Yeah, this is.
So can this
also part of
possibly
what
be
this meeting
taken
is.
offline? Or like, are we also want to hammer amendments here?
I mean, this is kind of setting the agenda, and you are here. So if it is friendly, we would do it here. If it's not friendly, we wouldn't do it here.
I'm just saying if it's friendly, because we're not experts.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not friendly. Sorry, Aria.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
Do any board members see any issues with ANCA and this one? Jay, this is from Teresa and Nush, who are both independently part of the governance committee, but are not the entire governance committee.
I have to say it just doesn't feel right. And if I have to look at an ANCA, I would look at 6B. It just feels against the right intention. I know it's a valid intention, Teresa, to your point, but it just the way it's now coming out to the AGM without a referendum, without a governance review, without these just doesn't feel right.
Can I ask Teresa a question?
I wouldn't mind replying to Alex for a second, but then
Be on the list.
I get where you're coming from. I would argue I don't think this is a bad faith change to governance. I don't think this is out of a place where they're trying to do a vendetta as much as improve things.
So my question then, it follows along with this. Teresa, is the intent to have a look at improvements to the structure? Is the way the resolutions are worded now, it's implying that the only thing that's acceptable is what's proposed attached to the proposal. Is that what the intent was, or was the intent to review and improve and look at how a council can be embedded? I'm being very careful with my words because there's a structure that's proposed, and the way the resolutions are written, it's that structure embedded and almost getting student input, but really not because you're not changing what's there. So just help me with the intent.
So if you look at the second BERT, it says that the proposed bicameral structure and the responsibilities of council and board broadly reflect the provided document when presented at AGM 2026. So I would say that the intention of the motion here is more the latter of what you said. Really, the only thing binding, I hate to use the word here, board would simply be the presence of the bicameral structure. But the details of the proposal attached, like that's far from that's far from the Bible here. So there's no there's no expectation that the proposal as laid out attached to the motion is what we expect to see at AGM 2026. Simply that the board engages in good faith and tries to reflect the spirit of the proposal as presented as best as it can. Sorry.
That's not what your first be it resolved said. It says with some modifications to the proposal, unless I've got a different one. Yeah, I mean,
No, you have the right one. Okay.
Okay, thought I did. But if
That's with exploring.
yeah, it's exploring.
The working. I read that as they just have to start there.
It's the latter part of the sentence, though.
Patients.
The presented proposal with modifications. So if that's your starting point, it may look very different, or it could look the same in modifications. So just to understand the intent.
Would it be friendly then, Teresa, to change that to say, starting with the presented proposal, but modifying it
based on student
consultations?
Yes, I just feel as though the second BERT kind of already covers us here.
If it makes people more comfortable and it's friendly, I think that's a great place to start. That would change to starting with the presented proposal with modifications. Sorry, I'm really flubbing my words there. I apologize.
So simply replacing working with starting? Is that the change you're suggesting?
Starting with the presented proposal with modifications from student. Yes,
I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think that detracts from our intended meaning. If the changing the word gets that more clearly across, that's perfectly fine.
As long as it doesn't change your intent. And really,
no,
what I'm
not
hearing
at all.
What I'm hearing the intent is we need to look at the governance structure. There needs to be consultation and modifications with justification based on consultation, and which includes the consultation with the organization itself and the impact.
Okay.
And it go through your government. Well, the outcome will be that it go through your normal governance process to bring it back to the board.
Do people want to straw poll on this one?
I had a 1 in the speaking order, but it was just gonna be something really quick.
Oh, sorry, Teresa. Shoot.
I was just going to say with regards to the personal grievance piece, in case people feel that the argument could be made that the motion could be rejected on those grounds, I would really appreciate knowing specifics on where the personal grievance piece comes up, because I can assure you guys I don't have a personal grievance against WUSA as an organization. If the question is maybe that we have gone through the wrong channels in order to bring this forward, I think that's a separate argument than the personal grievance piece. That's all.
You want me to respond to that? Because
feel free.
I'll own it. I'm the one that said that. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you have a personal grievance against it. I guess that you're right. That was my way of saying that it came up. I think I just didn't come up right? And I understand it was because, thank you, Esther. I understand now the clarity of because of the lack of health check. So should the lack of health check be dropping this on an AGM? Apparently, that's not the place to discuss this under ANCA. So it's all moot at the end.
I guess, any more talk about this one, or is this, are we fine to add it? Do people want a straw poll?
It doesn't violate onto it.
Okay, then we're moving on to our last one, right? We have one more. This is another one of mine. Defining ESGs. Let's see if that, no, that didn't open the right browser. That's fine. And I think this is our last one, right? Yeah, last one. Then there's only one other motion. It's about proxies.
Oh my God.
We're not done.
Okay, whatever.
Okay. Mine, I don't think is updated since the last time you saw it, but I guess we should cross out the section that says to be further discussed with the advocacy team because it's not going to get revised more at this point. So I will talk about it more with them and possibly amend it, but I would amend it on the floor, not for today. I think that would be weird. Any thoughts about this one?
I want to pull it up quickly. Sorry. This is the one that says,
this is the, hey, do a bunch of stuff there. And then I also ask WUSA to have a timeline to meeting our own standards around ESG investment.
balancing the violence syndrome.
Tried to be not too terrible, but. Really? No discussion? All right. Well then. Alex, I think that's the end of our amendment. You seconded this one, right?
3 hours.
That was good though. This was generally fast, I think. I think about that. We as a board have like developed skills.
Okay. Now I guess we actually take the vote for the agenda of the general meeting. Oh, no, we have to do order. Do we have to do order now or can we do order later?
I mean, the order we approved them, I'll just call it. Oh, no.
Can we do order later?
What do you mean in terms of the order of the proposal?
Yeah.
The agenda.
You can do it now quickly. We can give you some latitude to your
Yeah.
to put it together, to group the proposals by themes. I think that's fair enough to say.
Well, Nick, you could put like my thing yet last. You could put the office. Okay.
Yeah, let's put the officers last because that one could just be board based.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably put the senator honorarium later because board based. Can we provide some general ideas and approve it with general ideas of order?
Yes, you can.
Wonderful. Let's do that.
See, there's a thing that Bester said that says what it could be board based. So how about we put all those at the bottom? So, where is that? I'm going to go from that.
Still come back here and work to still deal with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the thought. Jeff.
You document is the question.
He's not muted. Got his hand up.
I keep muting myself. Apologies. I just wanted to point out that the board policy manual does point out a prescribed order for general meeting agendas. Proposals for which proper notice is given will be placed on the agenda in the order of the number of members moving the proposals, with proposals receiving more movers appearing first. So I guess if there's a tie, we can.
There's a lot of. There's a lot of
I've not received alpha for it.
Everyone has one.
There's a lot.
Most of them are single. We have like one or two double.
So what those go?
So the board can still, you can decide where.
Sure. All right. Other than the ones that have two, which are the ones that have two?
That's the Senate one that's Ira still going.
The Senate one goes early. The governance one goes early. Do any of the other ones have two? I don't think so, actually. Other than those two, which have to go first according to your own bylaw. The rest of them we group based off of which ones we think are easiest to be just tackled by board as opposed to. Sure. All right, that's the direction, and otherwise clump them as appropriate. Can we vote on the agenda? Is that what we're able to do now?
We agree in principle, let's go through that.
Okay. Good spot, Jeff. You're good with that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we have that in our bylaws, but okay. Sorry, in our policy manual, but okay.
Bylaw.
It's not bylaw. All in favor of the agenda for the general meeting 2025. That's this year. All in favor? Blah, 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 blah. That's fewer than I expected.
Can I not be that?
I almost said 20. Actually, I almost said 2026. So things could be, that could have gone. We really screwed up the timeline.
No different.
Is that, I think that was unanimous. Great. Last part of the day. One more discussion. We have the agenda, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I can actually go back to the normal agenda. The last discussion we're having today is on proxies for the annual meeting.
Didn't see the result.
Isn't this fun? Proxy limit. You should have seen this motion before. I guess I'm looking for a mover and seconder on this.
It's being resolved here.
Oh, sorry. The resolution is limiting the number of proxies to
what?
One to start.
Okay, that's what it's.
So I would comment.
This meeting.
No, for the general meeting.
It's for a general meeting, and we're allowed to do that.
Yes.
Because we have to declare the general meeting is like good governance practices. We're allowed to just impose that after we have declared the general meeting is happening, and people's expectation is previous years.
The agenda hasn't gone out yet, and then the proxy forms also have not gone out yet.
Oh, for that reason. Okay, cool.
Jeff, are you moving this motion?
Sorry, I should have asked that, but I was trying to ask for clarification.
Yes.
Jeff's moving. Would anyone care to second? Aria seconds. Jeff, you have the floor to start.
As not the original mover, I think the motion speaks for itself.
Aria, you have the floor second.
I think, you know what, it's like everywhere else is like this, so I'm okay with it. Good motion.
Yeah.
I will. Direct response. No, not everywhere else is like that. In fact, we haven't been like this in the past. No, we've allowed councillors to have 5.
Yeah, before it was 1-to-1.
Oh, I would argue, I think 1 is not a great choice. I think we probably can go up from 1. I was going to suggest 48 as a silly number because it means that we have to have at least 3 people attend a general meeting. That's my entire reason why. We'll do Alex and then a ton of people.
Can I direct response to me?
You can direct response to me and then we'll go to Teresa.
Guess what, Meg? I actually somehow actually agree with that relatively. I think there's actually some benefits to not having just one. This is, I understand, Jeff, you said the motion speaks for itself. I get that too. But having more proxies can actually get us involved more. I remember last year was a freaking nightmare. I had 20 something and it was like running up, but it was a good way to get people involved. You can submit your votes to your proxy. You can tell them how to vote. It's not always just 3 blank votes for whoever the proxy holder is. I think actually having multiple votes would be a good thing.
I agree with you. But we have
maybe.
So why do I say Teresa? Why do I have Teresa? That doesn't seem right. I think I'll have.
I'll do 2 Alex if that's allowed. Oh, so
no, I have Teresa, then, oh, sorry, Aria, then Teresa. Jeez, sorry.
The point of information actually, but like, how do we check Like, is there a proof way of actually checking this? If it's like 20, 30 proxies, can we actually make sure they're voting the way their proxies told them? If it's that huge, like, what's the audit process then?
Oh,
Okay, that's my concern, frankly, like, how do they want that to be fair?
I have Teresa, then Jeff.
I'll echo the sentiment that one is maybe a little restrictive, especially given the size of our ownership and the fact that so many students are co-op students, and so may not even feasibly get to attend in person. And we don't exactly have a hybrid option the way that other societies that run their annual general meetings like NSOC have available. And even then, NSOC even allows 2 proxies per member, which I think is reflective of the unique nature of Waterloo as a co-op school and having so many students kind of on and off campus whenever. So I think 1 might be a little low, and I would be amenable to increasing that number. As to what exactly that number should be is difficult for me to ascertain, because I definitely hear the argument that we shouldn't, like, holding too many proxies, as Arya mentioned. Like, the issue there is kind of vetting to make sure that students are actually voting alongside what the proxies actually intended. It doesn't seem like there's any reasonable way to actually monitor that beyond manually going through, demanding that every proxy like to vote on the motions they had specific votes on, and so on and so forth. Like, that's a lot of checking in the back end there that I don't know if is reasonable to ask of staff or volunteers. So that's kind of where I'm landed. I'm open to hearing numbers on limits, just because I don't think that I think having no limit, as we saw at the last AGM, invites people to bring upwards of like 73 proxies, which I don't think is reasonable given that our quorum is 100.
Jeff, then, do you have any thoughts? Oh, sure.
Oh, sorry. Not necessarily do that, just overall.
Okay, then Jeff and Kumar. And then Mike.
Jeff, you're muted.
I'm very sorry. I was just gonna say I'll yield to Kumar and Mike first.
Sorry, we were laughing. We couldn't hear you.
I'll yield to Kumar and Mike first.
Okay.
Suzanne mentioned, for many years I've seen it with 1, and a few times it's been depending on the order of the day. I guess the only thing I caution is not having that ceiling, and often when it's more than a couple, it oftentimes gets gamed, right? Like people and groups gamed it, and then all integrity in terms of how representative that number is out the door. So, yeah.
Okay, sure. Brian, then we have Mike after that.
I'm just keeping you on your toes, Nick. That's all I want to do.
That's okay.
Also, with the intention of a general meeting of it being a spot for students to actively participate in that. When you hold X amount of proxies, even those proxy holders cannot actively participate or change their mind in how they wanted to vote with new information coming forward. So being mindful also within that limit to allow for that educated and informed position to come forward through the general meeting discussion. I don't have an amendment.
48. Mike.
Hello. I just wanted to make a quick comment about one of the lines Teresa said. Staff on the back end coordinating everything. So just as a broad functional situation, every proxy that we receive that has somebody's name, we would make sure that it is at the sign-in desk, and when they check in, their name will be sort of written down and checked, and they will be given the proxy and the instructions. Anybody who has not indicated somebody to hold their proxy and just wants someone in attendance to hold it, we will give it to anybody who is willing to hold it, with those same instructions about how they want to vote on everything. So a lot of this is done just based on their form submission, but there isn't a lot of gaming the system, and I will agree with what Kumar said. If we want to avoid as much risk as possible, making sure that people aren't holding 5 and then lying about how their proxy voted is maybe the best.
Jeff, we're back to you.
All right. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to highlight what I said in chat and what's sort of been repeated, which is that we've always had a proxy limit of 1, and this was kind of unintentionally removed in the governance restructure. I think I personally think that we should consider this proxy limit of 1, in my opinion, to be the base case. Like any deviation from that number should be considered the change. I know that's not quite how it is, but the reason why the proxy limit is so important is so that we have AGM as representative as possible. What I really don't want is for people to go around soliciting as many proxies that they can. If people can't make it to AGM, they can still definitely submit a proxy unregistered to anyone. And so one amendment I might propose to this motion is to return one of the previous functions we had, which was setting higher limits for board members who hopefully can be trusted more to actually respect the original intent of the proxy votes submitted. We've had that in the past where board members had, I think, council members had 5, board members had 25 in the year following that. But yeah, I guess I'd vote strongly in favor of this proposal. We really, AGM has some pretty substantial motions that can come to the floor, and we don't want one person going around collecting an outsized influence that doesn't really represent students.
I'm next. I think I would argue that if we're doing a good job to make sure that students understand what proxying means and that the form explains it to them, then for proxies that don't already have a list of votes, or it says abstain if there's an amendment, there's that aspect of representation in trusting another person to go out and vote in your interest. It's something that we do all the time. We're a very representational system in many ways. And I think I would disagree that board members are in some way more virtuous or other elected representatives are more virtuous than the average student. I don't think it makes sense for us to single out certain students over others just because we in some way think more highly of ourselves. So I would like it to be flat, and I would say 48, but I moved from 48, but I like 48. Aria, you're next.
I would agree in the sense that everybody should be the same number. Again, I think what Brian said was a good point. There should be that discussion in AGM, and if one person holds too many proxies, that really can cause issues because they might misinform votes. So I honestly, I would say maybe like if you want to, board has the wish to change it, I would go up to 2. That means one person hypothetically can vote as 3 votes, and that would. But I don't think going higher, like, yeah, I personally don't think it would be the right move, just for the integrity of a good educated debate, and anyway.
I know Sarah is typing out larger response. Ooh, that was simultaneous. I'm gonna do Teresa then Jeff though.
Sorry, I just wanted to make like crystal clear the point I was trying to make earlier is what I'm saying is that even if we have proxies provide instructions and the proxy holders provided those instructions, after the fact, once AGM is concluded, there's like I don't think that we have any kind of vetting process to go through each and every one of like a proxy's vote and cross-check them with what was originally indicated in the instructions. Obviously, that's an issue that exists universally across proxy votes. Like that's the nature of a proxy, is that you can't account for you probably account 100% for the instructions given, but the ramifications of an inaccuracy like that when you have like a max of like 3 proxy votes or 2 proxy votes is far different than the hypothetical unlimited where you have students bringing in upwards of 30 or 40 votes. I think that was my concern that I was trying to communicate.
I have Jeff, and then I'll read off Sarah's point.
I'll actually let Sarah go first because some of my points.
Okay. Sarah says, unregistered proxies are probably less representative than registered proxies, to be honest. The motion says reason 1 is that many proxies is disproportionate, but I think it's by definition proportionate if people choose who to proxy to. If somebody wants to proxy to you, they should be able to. Plus, if we have unregistered proxies, I think is where she's going from here, What happens if you reach your meeting proxy capacity? As in, you don't have enough people present to hold the proxies that have been submitted. It also feels dishonest to change this after already having solicited motions for this meeting, and this might have other quorum issues. So yeah, if we have more proxies, then we have people who can hold them. Jeff, do you have more points, or I assume so?
Yeah, yeah, it is sort of starting with a bit of a 2. I agree with a lot of the issues that Sarah has brought up here, but I did want to address some of them. So, I think I may have misspoke earlier when I said something about, board members being more trustworthy. I agree that that's not a consideration. The higher limit, I believe, was to address the issue of if for some reason there are more proxies than a number of people, the overflow usually goes to board members who typically abstain them if there's no explicit instruction. I think I also agree that if people choose to proxy to someone, they should be able to do that. But what I think has been seen in the past is people go out, and I'm perfectly fine if someone wants to go to the meeting but can't, they proxy to someone. But what tends to happen is people go around to solicit proxies to them. I think that basically it's sort of the ideal versus the realistic outcome of what does end up happening, especially when stakes are high with some motions. And I think if people have already indicated what they wish to vote on, then the limit, who in the end of the day holds that proxy, is not as you still have some influence in that sense. In my opinion, the best solution is a hybrid format, but apparently logistically infeasible for us to carry out.
Yeah, it was previously noted in the previous motion that, hey, that random buddy or student, doesn't care and isn't that engaged. And again, it's gained. Anytime I've seen there's no ceiling, it is gained. And it becomes a freaking game. I've seen it multiple times. So.
I will make an amendment to this motion. I'm going to come down from my number 48 and suggest 5.
Negotiate.
Bet you one. Could is anyone willing to second my motion on having this at 5? Teresa, is that seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion on 5. All right.
That means 16 people if they all have. Everybody has, again, the number is just too little in my opinion. I sit at a 2 as a compromise personally.
You're saying 4. Further discussion on me and Teresa's amendment at 5 proxies.
What did you mean by the 50?
16, if 16 people, give or take, it's 16.777. If 16 people show up and they'll have 5 proxies, that's AGM, and that's my fear. It's not representative, right?
Well, that's a good point.
It's the only thing.
Jeff, on the amendment to 5.
Yeah, I guess one thing for people to consider with higher numbers here, and I know that this argument could get picked apart, but I do think you are somewhat devaluing the vote of a student who just potentially devaluing the vote of a student who shows up when you increase proxy numbers. Obviously, yes, that proxy does represent another student who, in the ideal case, would have wanted to or cared enough about the meeting to attend anyways. But if you allow people to, the more proxies there are, the less the value of someone who does show up and doesn't attempt to solicit proxies.
If we run into a situation where there is a maximum of 2, but there's a lineup of people wanting to submit proxies, perhaps overflow proxies are assigned to board or something like that. So we don't limit that, right? But so we don't want to stop that, right? but everyone can carry smaller numbers potentially.
Brian,
Maybe I'm gonna try to refocus maybe and to get away from numbers. It's like, what is the purpose of a general meeting and for the members to be able to come and participate in? And if it's for us, for the organization to conduct business and have enough quorum and pass, right? And just, do that as easily as possible, then I think proxies make sense. If it's to engage in the membership and reduce apathy and to highlight to many different students about what's going on, then I think that board needs to have that conversation about the purpose and what we're trying to do from an engagement aspect at the gym. Because the more proxies people carry, the less engagement there are from those folks that actually carry a proxy. And I think that's an important piece for board to chat about. And that's where our threshold has moved from 50 to 100 to 200 back to 100. We've kind of gone around because we have found that we haven't been able to do our business, but we've had conversations tonight and previously about student engagement and student input and student feedback on what we're doing. This is their time to be able to have input on what our organization is either changing, doing, fees. And I think you folks need to maybe have some focus that conversation around how do members participate in that and actively participate and get educated in that conversation.
Sarah has a reply to Jeff, which is the value of an in-person vote remains the same. We should treat proxy votes as being like any other votes in value. I would say to Brian, I think 5 is a reasonable compromise where we make it so that we're not gaming the system too hard. And it's still not overwhelming anybody who decides day of to show up. And we're still giving opportunities for people to come along. And also, Jay also supports 5, but has now left the meeting.
Well, it's interesting.
Okay. Do you want to take, Alex? You're the only one?
If I may,
Alex?
I can admit that my perspective on this issue has changed.
Oh.
I think having fewer proxies makes more sense than having more. I think if we want people to come in, use the annual general meeting as a time to give input onto it, I think having fewer proxies makes more sense. I support the original idea of what Kumar said, having an overflow idea. If we do have those numbers of people wanting extra proxies, then we do put them on board members or whatever. I think that makes sense. But I think having fewer, like 2, I'm going to throw 2 out. I think that makes more sense than 5. So
We're going to settle at 3.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
6. I guess we should vote on the amendment to 5. Oh, wait, hold on. Is there an actual comment there? I can't see because Teams keeps giving me. All right, thank you.
No,
Yes,
sorry.
I am just Teams updates keep blocking my ability to read the Teams messages. All right, voting on 5 as the amendment, not actually the motion. All in favor of 5? Good for 5. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's it. Makes sense. Oh, I don't think we can count Jay as voting. Oh, sorry.
Wait,
4.
Nick, did you say 4 or 5 or against 5?
Sorry, this is 4, 5.
Okay.
All in favor of.
All in, yeah, maybe not getting. All in favor of 5. Which appears to me to be Teresa, myself, and Matthew. All against 5. Oh, and Zara. Sorry, I'll ask Zara at the end because I'm confused what she's voting in. Against 5.
Against 5. Okay.
We have Maricini, Alex, Aria. Zara is 4, 5, which puts us in a tie. That's 6. It puts us what? Yeah, that means we go up to 10 actually. But I think the amendment failed. I think it fails because it's a tie and it's an amendment.
I would support a 3 to help you guys. You got my vote.
It's the words wars. Sorry,
I'm trying to compromise here, folks, so we can go.
sorry, Alex, were you going to present a motion which is a low number and then, but we have an overflow mechanism for,
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
yes.
Are you seconding this one?
I am. What am I sectioning, bro?
2?
Thank you.
2 with an overflow. Okay.
Support that.
And your overflow is board members?
Yes.
Okay.
Board members have fiduciary, so they will get sued if they.
We threaten to sue them.
Yes.
They don't vote wrong.
Put that in the form.
Put that in the thing. WUSA is obliged to sue them if they vote wrong.
Well, because not even board members, it could be the corporations. The staff who have the corporation can receive them and then announce the.
Because membership weirdness.
Okay.
Zara asks, why board members? Teresa answers, fiduciary duty reasons, and overflow used to go that way anyways.
Okay.
Any discussion on the amendment? Because we've jumped now to, let me write that down. This is the amendment, which is setting it to 2 with an overflow.
Yes.
Beholden. Make it harder to vote in accordance with proxy. Oh, what an interesting point, Lara. What if your proxy holder has you vote against the interests of the corporation?
But everything we passed as agenda can, nothing we passed, so that's what we did the agenda.
Oh.
I think it's against the interests of the corporation.
Oh, what an interesting perspective. Though I don't know if I would agree.
We didn't go.
That's right. Yeah, because holding in proxy is in a way not actually voting for yourself.
Yes.
So, our discussion is really in the chat now. I would like to move the limit by +1 to 3.
Tell the issues.
No,
What does that mean?
it's not friendly.
This is the.
Oh, sorry. Zara is suggesting instead of board members, instead, if we have additional proxies, then the number of proxies goes up by 1. Is that right, Zara? So we set it to 2 by baseline, and if we have unregistered proxies, then we increase the proxy limit by 1, and then just redistribute those. And if we run out of people, then we increase the proxy limit by 1 and redistribute those.
In the system,
Right.
though.
Isn't that exactly what we're doing?
Yeah, it really comes.
I have a plan of information, just so I understand what is being discussed. So when we're saying overflow, we're saying folks to show up on the day and then like, I just want to proxy and make.
It's registered both proxies. That means, hey, I'm a student and I'm giving a proxy. Like those, because we're.
As soon as we have to pick the.
Okay, students that might not be able to engage because they don't have a friend.
That's fair. If you don't pick there's no personal and of anything. I'm just trying to think what's the best governance. Where are we now?
I
Got it.
But in the event that we see the limit decided upon, will we not wear the extra layer?
Yeah, I'm good to vote on mine.
You want it? I think it's not unreasonable to vote on the amendment 2 with overflow to board of directors. All in favor of the amendment between Alex and Aria, which is moving the number of proxies to 2 with an overflow to board members in attendance.
It's this 48.
That's 4.
Oh my God.
All right. All against? Go to the second. Only 3 against, though. It's 4 against.
It failed.
All right. Next amendment. Well, we got the next idea.
I will settle for 3.
Sorry, Jeff. I'll let you make your comment because you actually went with speaking order, and then we'll do Aria.
Sorry,
Jeff.
I just I feel like this should be communicated as an increase in proxy from historical precedent of 1 to 2 when we communicate this, but yeah.
Oh, Sarah, would you like to speak? Did you figure out your mic button? No, it's still a vote. Okay, then Aria.
Oh man, I don't even know what to do. If I straw poll moment, oh my god. I was gonna assassinate me after I leave this forward. Let's see if the motion standing passes. If not,
What's a one? We're gonna call the question?
okay. How about just oh man. If we just do 2 alone with the layover.
That one just failed.
Just,
we can't pay that.
Okay, 3.
Wait. Point of information. I'm so sorry. The motion failed?
Yes, because it tied, so it fails. Because it's an amendment.
I'm so sorry. I assumed it passed. My bad. Who was voting for? If that's not out of order.
No, we waited for his hand to go down.
Aria, Alex, Matthew,
and Jeff. And everyone else voted the other way. So it's 4-4 again.
That's crazy.
Does this mean our compromise system is 3.5 proxies a person?
3 proxies. I'm the only one who's gonna flip here, right? So 3.
Oh, do you flip it 3?
I will vote for 3 because that's.
Did you vote at 3?
I will vote at 3.
Okay. I'll suggest.
Nothing's gonna happen.
I'll suggest 3 with overflow to board. Okay, I got a secondary.
I'm happy to.
Alex, sure. Let's go to the vote immediately.
Wait,
all in favor?
No. Sorry. I have to.
Jeff.
I have to ask the people what the heck is the difference between 2 and 3? Why is this changing anyone's minds?
Because we're
because we're deadlocked.
I'd like only people whose decisions would be changed to answer. And if no one answers, then I think we should not vote.
1 second. I will change my vote just because, like, we need a compromise.
Are you voting for? Are you going to vote
Voted
against?
yes.
I voted yes for.
You voted yes for 2. Are you
Yeah,
voting
I support 2 still. I still support 2.
But then you're not changing your decision.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Why do people not like 5 more
Because
questions?
it's too much.
5's too much. 2 is too little.
So is anyone like Teresa?
I would,
you actually change?
Jeff, I would vote at 3 because yeah, I think I would prefer 4, but 3.5 is my actual line, and 3 is fine. Why is 3.5 my line? I would prefer 48 if we want to go back there.
You have to hold hands with the other proxy. Buying your buddy.
But I think the other reason there, Jeff, is that it seems like this is where we're more likely to actually end up. But I'll go to Teresa, who's put their hand up.
I don't want to seem abstemious for the sake of being as such. The reason why I feel so strongly towards 5 is, again, because I noted this earlier, UW is kind of in that unique position where we have untold amounts of students off campus because of co-op. And so I'm really cognizant of the fact there that we have more of our membership, away from Waterloo or away from campus at least, that may feasibly want to participate. And I feel that 5 is a reasonable number to increase to with these circumstances in mind. Again, with the Engineering Society, they have their joint annual general meeting has proxies of 2 per person. And I feel that given that we are $40,000 we are 40,000 people worth of representation here, I think 5 is reasonable in terms of scaling. Not that NGSOC should be considered like some scion of governance perfection, but I think they have the right idea there with regards to understanding that a good deal of our membership is not even on campus, even if they wanted to vote.
Alex. 1, I would like to just say, to quote Kumar 40 minutes ago, the more people we see, the more higher amount of proxies we see, the more gaming we're going to see. 3 is fair with an option. And then if we need more, we have an option to spill over into board members. There's an option to hold more. If there's too many people who don't get that representation, 3 makes sense.
It brings it to 33.
Let's just get this over with. It's 5 to 10 p.m.
Jeff.
Yeah, let's just be clear. If you can't make it to AGM, you can still submit a proxy, even if you don't have anyone to submit it to or they've hit their limit already. Like, all we're doing is making AGM itself, like, preventing it, like, making it more requiring more individual people who are at AGM for motions where people haven't given instructions to, like, yeah.
I would like to
decentralizing that control.
Every compromise has been.
Aria, do you have a clever idea?
Maybe. I don't know if we have even the power as a board to do this or not. What if we say for AGM to meet quorum, there has to be 100 in-person people? 100 people. Oh, I don't know, Sandra, then like.
Oh, no. That's where I was going to see if you can do that.
You can?
Yeah.
It's a
I
bylaw.
think it's a good idea.
That would cut all the concerns because that's a good representation at minimum of different folks.
I don't know if you're going to find a seconder for that one.
It's not emotion.
It's already in your bylaws. A quorum is 100 members of the corporation, either in person or proxy. Yes.
Yeah, so it's either in person or proxy. So I don't know how much.
Zara would second it if you propose it.
Legally.
Yeah,
because I'm saying
that's a bylaw change.
Right here. Never mind. Next year.
Next year, the 100%.
Okay, three will pass. So just do it.
Sorry, three with the spillover is likely to pass.
Yes, it will pass.
Sure, I'll second three with spillover. Can we just say 3 with spillover to whoever the chair decides?
Oh, no, wait a minute. I know you would like. Wait a minute. Do we spill over to who?
Equally distributed board.
Okay, whatever. Equally distributed to board.
Distributed.
Not one board member gets too many.
Equally distributed to board members in attendance, because otherwise we're just burning proxies.
Show up.
Okay. I'm going to call the question on 3 with spillover. All in favor of 3 with spillover?
Nick, I believe Sarah had something she wanted read aloud in the chat.
Which one? Rather choose who my proxy is instead of throwing the dice.
No, so I'll just read it. So she's saying with regards to NSOC having like a hybrid piece to our joint annual general meetings, she says that makes it easier to have a 2-person proxy limit if NSOC also has an online component. I think that's what she wanted read aloud.
What's a 2% proxy?
Wait.
Actually, bylaw change again. Keep that in mind. So
if we have a hybrid meeting, people would be open to having a 2-person proxy limit.
Yeah, but then we have to administer hybrid.
I'm sorry, I heard 2%.
Well, Alex, concerning the hybrid, I'll probably need to touch base with IT again, because I'm not sure it went well the last time.
Don't think it did. It was a nightmare.
We did. I remember last year, but was it a tank?
But we could try.
It's all around.
What can we do it again online?
Sorry?
You guys could do it again online. Nothing's done.
You have to buy a solution. Like, there are software solutions out there that do it, but like, given the time, right now is not the time. And I think that should be investigated for future. But that means everyone casts their vote through the same way to count those little thingies and to count online votes and reconcile. That's hard.
Yeah.
But there is a modern way we can approach this in the future. And we have to invest in that.
I like to. Okay, Ari and Brian, but Brian first.
Okay, just to echo that, I know we're not getting on a tangent about how many proxies, but I want to say this really quick. I have been around this, like in and around WUSA board for many, many years. This is the same circular conversation that gets had every year.
Totally.
I'm not lying to you. Every single year this comes up. Board, my professional opinion would be for board to direct Kumar or Suzanne to work with our IT team to implement and investigate the cost of a hybrid solution, or not hybrid, a online voting solution that can be used for the future. That doesn't solve this general meeting, but I would also want to get out of the weeds and look at the future so we're not back here next year talking about the same thing.
I think you have unanimous support for that, but I would say.
Provided directions, it is a priority.
I think that was great.
All right.
We do it through Teams this year, like just Teams, Google, Microsoft Teams wouldn't be sufficient?
No.
Not easily, no.
Pain in the butt.
Stuff like that, there's so much more.
Okay, cool.
And logic and control.
It exists though. Okay, I think 3, and then we do the thing Brian said, so we're not here next year. I actually like that idea. Making sure it's time.
Hey, can I call a question on 3 with spillover equally distributed to board members in attendance?
You can.
All right, all in favor of 3 with spillover equally distributed to board members in attendance?
Let us fail.
How's it 4 again? That's 5.
Yes.
Okay, 6. Oh.
All
right.
Everybody.
All against the motion as presented. Zara. And Archie, are you abstaining? Yes. All right, that's the meeting. See you guys next week.
See ya.
Okay, get something.
Everybody.
Agenda has already been due.
Oh my God.